try this again. One more again. Okay. Hopefully all is well with everybody. We're going to get started. We appreciate your presence. Thank you for joining us this year. Literally, thank you for joining us this year. Prayerfully, everybody's ready to go. Got as much rest as you could. I know we helped keep some of you up late last night. That's all right. Prayerfully you enjoyed. Prayerfully you got something out of the word and out of the message that was given. Great messages given by great members of the kingdom. Amen. All righty. So let's start this year off right. Let's get into it. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Amen. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi. Ça va? Ni hao, namaste. Hosayana Kituguya, Ohio. I see you. Manut, Huguan, Kamsa, Kamsamida, Aloha, Ciao, Honson, Privet, Habarigani, Akwaba, Madase, Itase, Jambo, Bibidi Kofi, the Fried Kokotana de Wewe, Boker Tov, Boker Tav, greetings, salutations, grand rising, Bakwatav, Barak Alad Shem Yahava, and the Ayin Kofayin Kochelet, and Servants of Christ, Mashalakhi, Shalom and peace, brethren. All right, Shalom, which is peace, Barak, which many would call blessings. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Thank you again for joining us. We very much so appreciate your presence on this rising January 1st, which is not actually the new year. It's definitely not by the Hebrew calendar, but by many accounts, it's definitely not the new year, right? We are not in spring yet. Our new year, year 5787, actually will begin March the 17th. That being said, we thank you for your presence. Thank you for everybody for showing up. Thank you for being with us, making it through 2025, hashtag a safe place, and getting to this place that we are in now, to where we would say this is our year, hashtag we be the nation. So we're going to focus on a lot of nationality. Today, only as far as announcements, today at 6:30 p.m. New York time, ministerial staff, we have our meeting. And at 8 p.m. New York time, we'll be back on the live session, getting back and digging back into the book or the epistle, the letter of Galatians. So thank you, everybody, for being on. We're going to get ready to get started. Outside of that, thank you for those who are coming over from Thursday Rising Prayer, or might even still be going. So they might be coming over in a little bit. But thank you for being on with us. And we appreciate you. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in, get into the message, and prayerfully it'll Barak be in thine house. So we'll get started. If you're able to rise to your feet in reverence of Yahweh's word, we ask you to do so at this moment in time. We are going to be going into the book of Revelation. We'll be doing a Revelation series until our next two series for the year are already locked, really three. We're going to do Revelation, or at least for the rising sessions. We're going to be doing Revelation. Then after we finish going through all of Revelation, we're going to come back to Exodus. Since we did Genesis last year, we're going to come back to Exodus. Then we're going to finish Exodus, and then we're going to get into the Roman road again. So we kind of already know what we're doing for a little while this year. All praises to the Most High Yah. But if you're able, once again, to rise your feet in reverence of Yahweh's word, and if you're able to turn to Revelation chapter 1, we're going to start right at verse 1. And today we will be focused on Revelation chapter 1, verses 1 through 6. And once again, I'm not sure exactly how long this series is going to be or last. It will last until the Vakakodash is finished with it. We're going to soak up as much stuff. Also, too, for those who've been looking for Revelation Revisited items and things like that, since they took down a lot of our stuff from before when we did this, 2-3 years ago. Then we came back. I believe it was last year or maybe a couple years ago. Actually, we did this more maybe 5 years ago. Then I think somebody came. We did this again a couple years ago because they started taking everything down because there were some things we were talking about and information we were giving out concerning the jab at the time, and so took our stuff down, so we had to start over again. And some of you know that they took the original YouTube channel down that had been up for 7, 8 years, something like that. So we are thankful and grateful for our continued growth. And even if we lost some folk, we're praying for them. Prayerfully, the word hit them, and hopefully they'll be able to come back and find us at some point. Right? But this year we're focused on being a nation. Everything we're going to talk about is coming from nationality. It always is, really. If it's a kingdom, it's a nation. If it be Yahadash Island, it's a nation. It's a country. It's a family. It's bound together. The religiosity, if you will. I know a person say religion means nowadays, but religion basically just means one of two things. It means that we are bound together by something, or it means that we repetitively do the same thing as a unit, as a legion, if you will, religion, right? So we who are in the same army, right? Soldiers in the army of the Lord, if you will. Those of us who are soldiers in the same army, we do the same thing together, making us a religion, but we religiously do things as a nation, nationality, right? You said, when is it? Hello, Keon. I'm about to get into Revelation and focus on that today. If you have like not trying to get on you, but that's a question where obviously we're going one of a couple ways, or maybe not, maybe I'm assuming, but do you have an actual, if the question is leading to another question, if you don't mind, because we got to get to the point. So it's not Q&A day today, although we do take questions, comments, and concerns, but our focus today is going to be in Revelation. So I'm not sure if you have an actual place you'd like me to answer from, or is there something you're trying to say as far as when is New Year's and all that? Because I don't celebrate New Year's Day nor New Year's Eve. Watch night service is something that's culturally significant, right? But that's tradition and it's not law, if that's what we're talking about, right? But I'm not sure if that's what we're speaking on. But otherwise, if you're talking about when is New Year's, obviously New Year's for many persons in the Julian Gregorian calendar is today, right? But if you're talking about biblically, or even talking about many other cultures and nations and stuff, it would actually start in the spring, right? Other than that, I'm not sure, where to go with that. Just being honest. So we're going to go to Revelation once again. And if you're able to rise to your feet, or however you were able to reverence the word of Yah, we're going to do so right now. And we'll go ahead and get ready to say our Bible pledge. But before that, let's say shalom to everybody. How you doing, Sister Raquel? Right? How you doing, Brother Key, Alberto, Keon? Answered always. Okay. I wasn't sure how to go with that. But thank you for being on. How you doing, Sister Deborah? How you doing, Brittany? CC, thanks for being part of the community. Sister Greta, still got to reach out to you. We're going to get it. How you doing, Sister Mignon? Excellent prayer last night. Thank you. How you doing, Boss Chief? Thanks for being part of the community. How you doing, Bon Adventure? How you doing, Bold Servant? Cole, Brother Cole, and anybody, if I miss you, charge to my head, not to my heart. How you doing, Double OG, Triple OG? By the way, I know that many of you were up late, including us, right? We weren't celebrating New Year's. We were doing watch night service, that being said. And I've actually been up for a little bit, so I get it. So that's why we had these things recorded. Prayerfully, we'll have some persons coming on and joining us in a little bit. Just a little bit. Alrighty. I think I got just about everything together. Let's do our Bible pledge. Clean hands, of course. We're going to go ahead and get ready to get started. Excuse me. Alrighty. All right, you can put your right hand, your Bible, your device in the air and just repeat after me. This is my Bible. This is my sword. And this will I trust. For Yahshua is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible. And this is Yah's word. Hashem Yahavach. Amen. When Yahavah's Sham, his name, his authority, let it be done unto us. Let us go ahead and read. Once again, we are coming from Revelation chapter 1. We shall read verses 1 through 6, which will be our focal verses for today. Revelation 1:1, it reads as follows. It says, the revelation of Yahshua Mashiach, right, which Elohim gave unto him, to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified it by his angel unto his servant Yehochanan, or John, who bear record of the word of Elohim and the testimony of Yahshua Mashiach, and of all things that he saw. Barak is he that readeth and they that hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein. For the time is at hand. Come on, nation. The time is at hand. Verse 4, Yehochanan, to the 7 assemblies which are in Asia, Kaddis, grace be unto you, and shalom, and peace, from him which is, and which was, and which is to come, and from the 7 spirits which are before his throne, and from Yahashua Mashiach, who is the faithful witness. That word, by the way, means martyr. And he's not a martyr just because he passed away. It's talking about he's a faithful witness. So this would actually be the word martyr here, my original definition. So once again, Revelation 1:5, and from Yahashua Mashiach, who is the martyr or the faithful witness, and the first begotten of the dead, and the prince of the kings of the earth, unto him, unto Yahshua, unto our Messiah, unto him that loved us and washed us from our sins in his own blood. Verse 6, final verse where we're focusing on today, and hath made us kings and priests unto Elohim and his Father and Abba. To him be glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. We've just read Revelation chapter 1, verses 1 through 6. You may be seated or go back to what you're doing in the presence of the Most High, Yahweh Elohim. Amen. All righty. All praises to the Most High. So this year for us, once again, our theme, if you will, even though we really transitioned because our year starts this year on March 17th, right? With that being said, we use this as kind of like a go-between the two. We start transitioning from last year, which was hashtag a safe place, or last year in the Gregorian calendar, hashtag a safe place, and that safe place that we've created now allows us to transition and start putting the nation in the safe place, so to speak, right? And we're going to be taking a lot more steps in that this year. And how you doing, Brother Rodney? I think I said, did I say hello, Sister Toya? If I didn't, please forgive me. How you doing, Sister Carla? Everybody joining us on all the different platforms. How you doing, Sister Monica, as well, right? How you doing, Lana? Everybody, we appreciate you. Right, Sister Brother Charles, Sister Monica, we give all honor and praise to the Most High for what he's doing for our people. How you doing, Sister Allison? Come on in, come on in. All right, so today we're focusing in on well, really this whole year is going to be hashtag We Be the Nation. We're starting our Revelation series. However long that takes after we finish that, we're going to go into Exodus, right? Shabbat, right? And after we finish that, then we're going to go into the Roman road. So we already got our first 3 series for the year locked, right? At least for the rising sessions. The evening sessions will be different. Patreon, by the way, we're probably going to be doing because I'm seeing I have some blind spots in there as of late with some of the Q&A. So if you're on Patreon, we're going to start a series for everybody, not just SOC University, but for everybody. We're going to start a series on Patreon. The series on Patreon is going to be dealing with Jasher, right? And Jasher chapter 1 all the way through 90, whatever it is, right? So we're going to be doing that as well. So we got a lot of great stuff that's going to be coming up besides this university stuff, random drive-bys we do, so to speak. So hopefully you're ready. But right now, this year in Becoming a Nation, hashtag We Be the Nation, our focus, right? Our focus in this nowadays is going to be very specific to making sure that we are dealing with Revelation. And today we read Revelation chapter 1, verses 1 through 6. Now, it is important that even though we're going to go back to verse 1, Revelation 1:1, I want you to catch a very important word that I believe is said in Revelation chapter 1, hold on. Do I have the wrong verse? Yeah, it's going to be in Revelation 1:3, or is it in Revelation 1:1? Oh, it's Revelation 1:1, excuse me. I'm getting ahead of myself. So I want to bring up a very important word. So if I may, let's go over Revelation chapter 1, verse 1 again. It reads as follows. It says, the revelation of Yahshua Mashiach, which Elohim gave unto him, to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent, and here's the word I want you to see, and signified. And he sent, and he what? And he signified. He did what? He sent and he signified. Why is that word so important? Right? See, because we've been taught silent letters, but even when this stuff is put out there, you can tell this stuff's not real because they don't obey these rules. They'll tell us there's such thing as silent letters. But when you say the word, especially the root word we're going to focus on right now, you'll discover that there's really no such thing as silent letters. That's somebody who either can't pronounce something, or somebody from another culture or another kingdom came over and took over somebody and said, this is how we're going to say the word now, right? But this word signified is extremely important. What is the root word? We're not even going to go into the Greek, Hebrew, all that, right? At least not with this word in particular right now, right? But this word signified, if I just look at it in so-called English, what does this word signify? What's the root word of this word signified? Right? I'm not doing anything to test you. This is not a trick question. What is the root word of the word signify? There we go. It is the word sign. Sigin. Signa. Right? Would actually be the way you would have originally pronounced it. We pronounce it properly when we add the end of the word. I don't know why I'm having a moment here. The Lyed, the suffix. There we go. When we add the suffix, we seem to get the pronunciation, but we've been taught when we don't see the suffix for whatever reason, we've been taught, don't worry about it, don't pronounce it properly, don't look at it properly, etc., etc. But if we look at this word, the root word of signified is signet, or the root word of, if you said it like this, signified is sign, right? So this word is saying that there's a sign, there's a name attached. Now we know or in Hebrew, the word name or sign, or I'm sorry, the word name that would be signed is it is the word sham or even shem, which means authority. How you doing, Big Brother Thomas? Everybody coming in here. How you doing, Brother Darius? And thank y'all for the love, the likes, the shares. How you doing, Sister Deborah? Everybody coming in on all the different platforms. We appreciate you, right? So this word is very important because if this word is signified, if it has significance, it means it is signed. This means this is authorized. So we have to deal with this. See, this is one of the things somebody was asking us on one of the Q&As recently, maybe even yesterday, talking about how can we tell which scrolls or which letters or which part of the Apocrypha or which lost books, etc. And one of the things that we say all the time is you should look for a signature. How you doing, Empress? Thanks for being on. Right? You should look for a signature. When Paul writes, Paul, however you want to say his name, Paul, when he writes, right? He always has a certain signature. He's going to start off his letters talking about who he is and what his authority is. He's probably going to talk about his relationship with some of the persons there. Then he's going to get into answering the questions. Usually he's going to start going in on some of the stuff that he's heard that's a little outrageous and stuff and start correcting some behaviors. And then at the end, he's going to start saying, hey, still love you, hang in there, do what you're supposed to do all these different things, etc., promote this, promote that, etc. So if it's written by Paul, we should see his signature, right? Right? When Moses wrote, he actually has a very certain signature. Really, anybody who's an Israelite, when they write, we have a certain signature. There's a certain way that we write things. How you doing, Auntie Marion? Hopefully, you saw we reached out yesterday. Hopefully, all is well and all went well with you and Uncle Jimmy, right? But you got to realize that these things, if there's a sign that comes through, right? When we are looking for somebody who's writing, when David writes, there's a certain tenor, there's a certain thought process, there's a certain, some of you would call frequency or vibration to his words, right? There are certain things that we should see if David wrote it. Amen. Amen. If David wrote it, there are certain things we'll see. When Solomon writes, King Solomon, right? Young Solomon, one day maybe he'll be writing too. But right now, King Solomon in the Bible, David's son, David, right? Bada David. When Solomon writes, there's certain things that we see in Proverbs that actually kind of do the same thing in Ecclesiastes or Ecclesiasticus. There's certain things that we even see, even though Song of Solomon is more poetic, there's still a certain tenor, there's certain things that he says, there's a certain way that he uses sentencing and phrasing to where we could say, oh yes, this gives us the Solomon vibes, if you will, right? This gives us the thought process, like if we heard this or somebody was reading this, it sounds very familiar to us, right? Well, Revelation here is signed. There's a signature, right? It is significant. It says, once again, in Revelation chapter 1, verse 1, it uses the term, it says that this was sent and signified. Once again, it was signed. I know what they'll tell you nowadays, right? Like, matter of fact, we'll even look up the modern definition because I know somebody would probably go there, right? So what is it? We'll even the definition of signified, right? So here we go. Same. So here we go. Just in case somebody wants to give me, no. That's not what it says in modern language, right? Modern English, if you will. It means it is the meaning or idea expressed by a sign, as distinct from the physical form in which it is expressed. Sign, signified, right? If you see the sign, you'll know the meaning. If you know the sign, if you know the signature, you know the authority, right? And many persons, remember, the Bible is not written to everybody. I need you to recognize this, right? We keep forgetting. The Bible is not written to everybody. It's not for everybody, right? Isaiah says, right, that the Messiah shall save many, but many don't mean all, right? All means all. Every means every. Man should not live by many words or some words, but by every word. It's very clear, right? But we have this weird thing that we've been taught that every human being, right, especially nowadays in a lot of New World theology, right, that has become, theorem for many, but it's really hyper theoretical, not even theoretical because it's not true theory, but anyways. Many persons are walking around with a mindset and the thought process that, hey, the whole Bible is for everybody. So then the promises that are given to a nation, therefore, they're like, well, that's for everybody. But that's not what your Bible says. I want to make this very clear again. See, watch this. Revelation chapter 1. That's our focal verses for today, are Revelation chapter 1, verses 1 through 6. That's what we read earlier. In Revelation chapter 1, it says this. It says, the revelation of Yahshua Mashiach, which Elohim gave unto him, to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified, or made sure that his sign, that his seal was on it. There's a group that must be sealed, right? We got to get these words and what they mean. We can't let persons lie to us. So there's a seal that was put on this scroll. It was scrolled up and it was delivered by an angel, right? The angel, right, was sent and signified. The angel who gives this message to the angel who will give this message to the Apostle John, right? Not John the Baptist, right? But the Apostle John, the one who wrote John, 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, and what we call Revelation. We would call that Chazan. We'll get into that in a little bit, right? But the one who wrote this, or the one who sent this, wouldn't even be able to give it to John if he hadn't signed off on it, right? And therefore, verse 2, who bear record, is a record that's given of the word, right, of Elohim, and of the testimony of Yahshua Mashiach, and of all the things that he saw. So John is supposed to write down what was signed off to be said. If Christ didn't sign off on it, then it's not to be said. And therefore, if Christ, right, but watch this, verse 3, Barak is he that readeth, and what? And they that hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand. So since we're in the last days and the time is at hand, you must recognize and comprehend and get right away this, if nothing else, right? That the time is upon us, right? Eschatology is real. Eschatology, right, of the Bible is real, right? It is real, Israel, right? And we are in the midst of the last days studying, right, and making sure we have the logic of the Most High. That's the ology, the logia, the logic of, or the study thereof. Right? So we need to make sure that in the times that will last, or even in the last times, the last days, the things that we must do to continue to last, there is an authorized method of life for an authorized people who belong to the Most High, right? And if we do not do what is signed off on, this is not for us either, because it says it serves who? Those who are barak, or blessed, right? Barak is he that readeth. So great, read it. Read it, that's great. But don't stop there. And how you doing, Cooper? Thanks for being on. Right? And how you doing? Is it Billy? Right? So read it. And Porter as well. So read it. Cool. Okay. And then once you read it, what you're supposed to do? You read it and hear the words. Do not just listen. Shema Yachad Sha'al. Right? Shema. Hear is different than listen, right? Many persons are going to do, no, we're not going to do that at all. Is that all we're doing today? Is that all we're doing today? We might have to go ahead and stop that already, right? But we, right. I'm not even sure, but thank you for being on, I guess, right? But just if we hang in there, maybe I'll get the gist of it. Not sure what's going on. So we're supposed to hear this. How you doing, Mo Desire? And then hear it. I'm sorry, read it, hear it. Right? Hear is different than listen. Digest it. That's right. A lot of persons will listen. You ever been in an argument or even a conversation with somebody who wants to argue, and they'll listen, but you can tell in their listening, they are only listening ready to give a retort, right? They're not listening because they believe what you have has value. They're listening because they're ready to say, ooh, okay, that point right there, I'm going to go ahead and mess it up. I be doing that a lot because I like apologetics. I like to be able to explain everything, right? But sometimes you need to be quiet, right? And be able to listen, or not listen, but hear, right? A lot of us are not digest. A lot of us are not saying, let me hear what you have to say. Let me put it within itself. Let me not listen to it ready to go ahead and tell you why you were wrong, but let me actually hear Shema. Right? Let me actually take time out that like what you're saying might actually, right, be something that is sensical. And even if I don't believe it's sensical in my walk or where I am right now in these days and times, it doesn't mean that I am not willing to hear you out, to hear where you are. Right? How you doing? Is it Alexandris, probably? Right? Our children need to be heard. Right? We listen to our children ready to tell them, well, you didn't do this and you didn't do what I told you to do, blah, blah. But it doesn't say listen, oh Israel. It says hear. If you're ready to go ahead and give a retort, you're not hearing. Now, we're not saying once you digest it, you cannot give a response, but hear. So it's different here. So those who are brought up by this word, they hear it, right? Then they what? I'm sorry, excuse me. They read it. Great. A lot of persons read. And by the way, ¿cómo está mi hermana? Gracias por tu presencia siempre. Right? So they hear it. Sorry, I'm getting off. They read it, right? We got to read it. That's great. Then they hear it, right? Hear the words of this prophecy, not just hear whatever they want, right? This is what we talked about with interpretation. Interpretation doesn't mean you have an interpretation. If you have somebody who can interpret something, they are telling you directly what this means. If somebody interprets your dream, they shouldn't be saying, this is what I feel about it. If somebody interprets your dream, they should say, this is what your dream means, right? Daniel chapter 2 is not Daniel saying, this is what I feel about it, or I'm going to tell you something and give you my best guesswork. When Daniel interprets the dream in Daniel chapter 2 for King Nebuchadnezzar, he had to bring in those 3 Hebrew boys, and all 4 of them prayed. They prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed, and then after they prayed about what do they do, then Daniel is then left alone, and then he's given the download, and then he comes and tells him not only what his dream was, but proper interpretation. What is it that Yahweh was telling Nebuchadnezzar? And what is it that now we glean that helps us? By the way, in this series, when we go a little further, we're going to have to go back to Daniel chapter 2, and Daniel chapter 5, Daniel chapter 7, Daniel chapter 9, Daniel chapter 11. So we're going to have quite a bit. There's quite a bit because, once again, the Bible is holistic as well. So Revelation is not this thing that just sits by itself. It fits within a whole set of scrolls. That's why it's holy. Right? Part of holiness means oneness. Because we're always trying to get back to one, alive. How you doing, Nigel? Right? So we must recognize and realize with the quickness, we must hear. Right? We must read, we must hear the words of this prophecy. And then what else? We must keep the things that are written therein. We must guard. To keep it, yes. You keep it close. Why do you keep it close? Because you're guarding it. Right? This is not enough to read it. And it's not just enough to go ahead and hear it, but now you got to keep it. You have to guard this word. Come on, right? Yeah, and it is our culture. This is Israelite culture. This is biblical culture. If you're in a country, if you're in a kingdom, hashtag we be the nation. If we are in a nation, And that means that we're keeping the things for the nation. We're guarding the nation. When we guard the word, we guard the nation. How you doing, Sister Beck? How you doing, Aaron? How you doing? Sister Dawn, how you doing? Brother Dwayne. I'm on. So when we keep the word, we guard it. When Cain says about Abel, right? When Cain says about Abal, and he says, "Am I my brother's keeper?" A lot of persons miss that. Do you remember? Does anybody remember what Cain's name means? Anybody recall what Cain's name means? Adam, his father, his name means man, right? Ayazad, his mother, who you guys call Eve, Ayazad, her name means helpmeet. But anybody remember Cain's name? That's right, possession. Which means if anybody should have understood how to take care of his little brother, if anybody should have understood how to keep him, right? If anybody should have guarded him, it should have been the one who took possession. The problem was, though, is that he wanted to take possession of power and authority and didn't like if anybody got any kind of due, and he didn't want to do things righteously. And so since he got in trouble for it and his brother didn't, he had to take his life. He had to possess his life, right? To that point, he would keep his life. He would possess him there. But you see, the keep is different. A lot of you possess certain things, but you don't keep, right? A lot of you have a Bible in your possession. But what's the point of the Bible if you don't keep the word? Guard it with your heart, with your love, with your passion, with your whole heart, right? With one heart, with a holy heart, right? Love, I love, right? Many persons will keep, or many persons will possess the word, but not keep it. See, if this is the revelation given unto you by the Most High, and you're going to keep it, don't just possess it. Don't just say, okay, I got it in a book. Don't just say, all right, I know this verse, this chapter. Don't just say, okay, I use Revelation 7 as a weapon to tell everybody why Israel is better than everybody else. Don't just say, okay, I know Revelation chapter 12 that the devil's been defeated, right? But I don't know anything about the woman with the 12 with this crown with 12 stars in her head. Don't just use this to go ahead and say, hey, you know what? I'm better than you because I keep the law according to Revelation chapter 20, verses 11 through 15. You got to not only possess it, but you got to keep it. The whole thing. The whole law. If it's not a whole, then it's not righteous. How you doing, Minister Kim Tong? Hopefully I'm saying the name correctly, right? So if I'm going to keep it, I got to guard it. And if I guard something, that means I've got to be trained on how to guard it. And depending on where I'm serving at, right? Anybody former military knows this. If we get different watches at different places we're supposed to keep, watch, guard, etc., then while I'm on watch, there's a different protocol wherever I am. And see, wherever you are in the body, you must recognize that Yahweh has called you specifically to watch and to keep where you are. Are you ready to keep this word where he put you? Right? And because many have taken possession of the word, so they think, but they do not keep it, many have become possessed. I hope somebody caught that. I hope somebody caught that. How you doing, Richie Rich? What'd you say, big bro? Instead of being in possession, he became possessed. Yeah, I hope somebody catches this. Right? Many of you, because you will possess the word but not keep it, you have left the door open for the enemy to possess you. Because a lot of you forget that in Job, the enemy was not in hell when he had a conversation with the Most High. Many of you forget that the enemy was not at the Freaknik when he had a conversation with the Most High. Many of you forget that he went to heaven for service, right? Pastor Yah was getting ready to preach, if you will. He went to a place that once he called home. A place that he knows better than you. I know all this stuff about if you speak in tongues, it confuses the enemy. He knows more tongues than you do. He knows more word than you do. But many will possess the word and not keep it. And guess what? The word also will keep you. So don't just possess the word. You need to make sure you keep it. See, keep it in your possession is different than just possessing. Keeping it in your possession means you guard it, you watch it. It's important. If something is to be watched, it's important to you, is it not? Do you leave your wallet out and open if you go to the mall? I don't care how safe a place is. You go on vacation and you go somewhere and they say, "Oh man, this is the safest place in the world." Would you take your wallet and put it on the ground? No. You keep it in your possession. Because if you possess it, but just don't keep it, if you possess, you got it somewhere near you, but you don't guard it properly, then somebody could easily possess it. And now here you got somebody using your card and using your ID and using your information, and they have taken possession of your life. And now you got to try to explain to somebody later on and catch up on what was supposed to be for you because somebody's spending time being you. The security cameras all around around the world. You can be in Kentucky and look at your house. I mean that too, right? But still, we want to make sure we keep because even that's different. Like you could have a security camera, maybe the police might be able to tell you who did what at your house, right? But it ain't the same as you try to knock on my door and I got that thing for you, right? It ain't the same, right? Or even if you're gone, you better make sure they're fine. Have some security measures. Have an electric fence. Have an invisible electric fence or something. Have this or that. But that's a difference, like where you can possess, right? And see, we have to be careful. See, we've been called as a nation to possess the land and to keep it. Adam was called not to just possess the Garden of Eden. He was called to what? To keep it. Mm. Don't just dress the land, Adam. Don't just make it look nice, right? But keep it, guard it, watch it, right? Anybody who comes into Adon or what we call Eden today, Adam, you make sure you keep them. You're responsible, right? Your wife Ayazar, she can Ayazar, she can eat of the fruit all she wants, and she can say that it's great. But when she gives it to you and you eat it as well, she did wrong. But you could have not ate. As soon as you ate, you in charge. You came first. You want the position of power. You want the position that comes with authority. Well, in authority, those who are authorized, they keep what they say. Now, how you doing, James? Excuse me. How you doing, Mahad? How you doing? Right? They keep it. A lot of you want a woman to possess. This is red pill logic. I want a woman for possession, but I don't want to keep her. Why can't I keep my wife? Because you didn't keep her. I'm not saying it's always that simple. Yes, before somebody comes on here and has to bash women to make their point, or has to bash the teaching to make their point, I get that women can make mistakes too. All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of Allah. And I'm not gonna, but let's be honest, there's a lot of jokers out here who are sitting up here talking about having 2 or 3 women and they be able to have as many women as they want. Some of y'all talking about 7 to 1 and all this stuff. Meanwhile, you can't make sure that you take care of yourself and keep your own house, and you can't even keep one wife. How in the world, even though we don't believe in all that, but that being said, if you believe in all that, how are you faithful to what you believe in and you can't even keep your own? You can't keep one. And truly, most of us can't be kept because we haven't kept his word. Yah is under no obligation, no moral obligation, even at that, to chase you all over the place while you doing whatever you want. I'm on, Sister Dawn, right? Keep my commandments means guard them. Yeah, we're gonna take our time with this series. I mean, we're gonna take our time. Holy Spirit gonna lead us. I don't know how long this series is gonna be. It could be the same as by the shot, could be shorter, it could be longer. But we're gonna do what Holy Spirit says. I can't just leave us alone. You gotta understand. Revelation 1:1 says this is signified. Once again, signified means signed off on. Right? Or you should know the sign, you should know the signature of the one that gives it to you. And if you know that signature, then you should know the ideas or the vision that is coming forth. Even in modern definition, that's what it's talking about. Right? There used to be a song by Stevie Wonder. He used to say, I'm signed, sealed, delivered. Y'all remember that? How you doing, Dracola? Y'all remember that song? Signed, sealed, delivered, I'm yours. Right? Y'all remember that? Right? Right? Y'all remember that song? Right? But he had a message while we was, the bass player was over there jamming, right? He had a message that came with it. He was saying, here I am, baby. Here I am, what? Signed. I'm signing off on this message. You got to get that first. And then I'm doing what? Sealing it. If I seal it, it means I signed, I wrote out the decree. I put my authority, my name, my shim upon it. I signed off on it. Then I had to roll it up so that I could take my ring and put another signature on it. right? I wrote it out, and then I signed it off, and then I rolled up the scroll, and then I put my ring on there. I put another signature on there. I put the family crest on there. That's a sign as well, right? And then it's delivered. Here's the message unto you. This is what we need to recognize, that this message is signed, sealed, and delivered to the wife of the Most High. For the Bible tells us in Jeremiah chapter 3, you are my wife, Yechadasha'al. Yechadasha'al, Aisha, Yechava. You are the wife of the Most High. You are married unto him. That's why he supplies all your needs. It's not because of some random thing. It's not because it's poetic. It's not because he wants to wax poetic, even though he will whisper sweet nothings in your ear when you need to know that you are more than enough. But he is not just doing that randomly. He's trying to tell you that you are my wife. I provide all your needs. If you want to go from the context of you are his child, fine, right? He still provides all your needs because you are an heir. Because we be the nation. See, we'll get to Revelation 7 and all this stuff in a little bit, right, and through this series. But see, you must recognize that Yahweh's word never changed. The nation is still the same. What he assigned, you see how that word goes in there? Now we don't say it correctly. Now we say assigned. We forget there's no such thing as signing letters. But the significance, if it's signified, right, then it's all right. Then it's also what he assigned to you. When you open up this message, when you get this scroll and you open it up, this is an assignment. Come on, somebody. This is an assignment. If you don't know, if you put an MENT on the word, basically you're saying that word is now a noun. It's now a thing, really. Right? So if I say government, a lot of you don't know. Govern, right? How you were governed, govern is a verb. But when I put mint on it, it actually becomes a noun. You think the government is a noun, but no, the government, or I'm sorry, you think the government is a thing, which is true, but the government, right, is what it is based upon what already happened, right? Here's another example, shion, or shun, motivation. Motivation is not what motivates you. Motivate is the verb, or motive even can be, well, motive or motif, usually going to be a noun, right? But motivate is what you're really doing. Motivation, right? So motivate, motivation en français, right? Or motivation in Espanol, right? Motivation. What you're saying is that the TION makes it a noun. So we have a book called 21 Days of Motivation. If you read the book tells you right up front, it is not my desire, nor is it my thought process, nor is it proper for me. If you want to have 21 days of motivation, I'm dealing with what you have become and what you can become because of the TION, the suffix, right? But what motivates you, you're already motivated. We might have to look at some of those things you're motivated by, but you're already motivated. How you doing, T-Mac? How you doing, Hat Lady? Thanks for being part of the community, right? So the same thing comes now when we talk about government. If it's a government, you must recognize that you are governed a certain way. And depending on how you are governed, right, that governing body, what they do becomes what you call government. You don't make government. Government is based upon how one governs. Right? We've lost the plot with some of these words because we don't have proper etymology. Well, if you have gotten something that is of significance, right, that is signified, which really means signified, S-I-G-N, significance, sign, right? So if you have something of significance, it's been signed off on by the Most High, then you must recognize that if it is of significance and it has been assigned unto you, then you now have an assignment. Something has been given to you that is supposed to make you become who you're supposed to be since before the foundation of the world. Come on, somebody. And thank you for being part of the community, Richie Rich. Right? What makes me great in any way, shape, or form is what this word does to me. And how you doing, Daisy? Right? And so I need you to recognize, right? I need you to see this. I need you to catch this, that you have been given an assignment. That means that this word is supposed to do something to you and help you become greater than what you're supposed to be. And a wise person would keep it. They would guard it. So when you keep the commandments, it means you guard them. I keep them in my walk. Okay, so when you having your walk, when you doing what you do, right? When your works are shown, right? Faith and works come together, right? So your talk and your walk, all that stuff, when it happens, how do you guard the word? If somebody were to look at your life, could they say, "Oh man, he or she, they guard that word. They live it." I might not even like them. I might not even like what they do. I might not even like how they live. But the one thing I cannot say is that they do not guard the word. If they say that, like that's one thing I have respect for. Even if you are somebody that totally believes something completely different than what I believe, do you keep what you believe? Right? I don't have no problem with you, right? Well, I mean, obviously we believe something different, so we might have some issues here or there. But I say I use this as an example all the time. If you're a Buddhist, then be the greatest Buddhist you can be. If you're going to come to me, but don't come to me and you don't even keep your own commandments. You don't even keep what Buddha Shakyamuni Buddha. You don't even keep what he says. You don't even know who he is. You don't even know that the reason why he's called the Enlightened One is because of where he comes from and where his people come from. You don't even know that those are not snails upon his head. You don't even know the sutras, right? If you're gonna live by the sutra, especially the Lotus Sutra, you can't tell me that he's coming back. You can't tell me that he's higher. You can't tell me he's not worthy of worship and tell me that you're a Buddhist because Buddha is worshipped in chapter 1 of the Lotus Sutra, right? I don't. You see what I'm saying? Like. At least keep guarded. Have something about you. Don't just be doing whatever you feel like doing, or else Buddha's words can't be for you, even if you're the most faithful of Buddhists. Yeah, most of us can't be kept because we haven't kept his word, right? So in this series we're doing hashtag we be the nation for the year. All our series is going to be hashtag we be the nation. First series we're doing this year is once again is going to be Revelation. Second series we're going to do this year, we're going to come up on Exodus, right? Or Shamat. And then third series we're going to come up on is going to be um, Back to the Roman Road. And how you doing? Is it Neath? I'm not sure how to say it. Thank you for being on, and thank you all for the likes, the shares, subscriptions, hit the notification tab, all that stuff, donations that you give to help us do what we do. Donating your time, even, it helps us a lot. So if we have been given something of significance, it means we have been assigned a task. This is why, once again, Revelation chapter 1, verses 1 through 6 are our focal verses for today. And it tells us that this is not your revelation. There's a name attached. There's a signature on this. This word was assigned, and it cannot change. You can't open up a scroll unless the insignia on it allows you to. Mm-hmm. Come on, somebody. You catch what I'm saying? You cannot open up a scroll if the insignia on it does not allow you to. Right? That's one of the reasons why some of you who still do the briefcase, you in the briefcase game, or you got some nice briefcases. If you get a custom briefcase, you get your what? Your initials on it. It's a signature, right? It's supposed to be a sign. If the police were to catch, if somebody said there's a suitcase missing, a briefcase missing, and suitcase, let's say briefcase, excuse me, and the briefcase was missing, right? Somebody goes looking for the briefcase. What's going on? Hey, somebody said the briefcase is stolen. Oh no, this briefcase is mine. Oh, okay, there's initials. Those initials say KWO. All right. What's your name? Well, my name is John Robert Johnson. Oh, okay. Well, that can't be yours. We might have to lock you up. Right? There's an insignia, a signature. How you doing, Brother Dennis? There's a signature on this thing. The signature that we find out that this is a revelation, and not just a revelation by anybody, is it a revelation of Christ. And by the way, if you know that this, once again, so if you know this is significant, it's signed and it's sent by a particular person, then you also should know what it's actually called. Hallelujah, somebody. Right? If you know that this is signed by somebody, you should probably know what it's actually called. Just like we talked about when we went over the Body Shot series. Many of you will quote the book of Genesis, not even knowing that it's not even called the book of Genesis. Right? Do you hear what I'm saying? Many of you will read the book of Genesis and not even know what Badashat means. If you know what Badashat means, it's game over for all the other stuff, because if you know what Badashat means, you know that this is already telling us that Christ will be on the cross, or tithe, if you know what a tithe is, right? It already changes it. If you know what Badashat means, you already know it's 3-in-1. Alacham Shada'ai, who we now call Yechava Alacham. Right? How you doing, Sister Shima? How you doing, Sister Taylor? Right? Right? If you know what it is, if you know what the cultural statement is, see, we be the nation. If you know what it's talking about concerning your nation, somebody can't just walk up in your nation and talk whatever. You know, this ain't their nation anyways. It's a corporation, but they think it is, right? And they'll tell you stuff like, man, this is America. You got to talk American. And although they're false, they're corporative, they're a fake nation, they're a fake person, they're a fake artificial person, right? If you know 28 USC 3002 15 subsection A, that means that you're living a corporation. If you're in the United States, you don't live in the country, right? That being said, though, that being said, they have a they have a they don't have proper understanding, but they have a better idea than many on how it works. Now, we shouldn't be so-called racist, so-called reverse racist, all this stuff, right? But I need you to recognize that we should keep his word. How are you going to keep the word of revelation and you don't know what revelation means? Hmm. Hmm. How is it that you've been telling everybody you got revelation thinking it's revelation? But that's not what it is. There is a word that is revealed, and we do have things revealed to us in this, but it is not revelation, it is revelation, right? And if you do just some quick research, I'm on, Sister Dawn. If you do some quick research, you'll discover that revel means to rejoice. Mm. Remember now, we just said etymology, T-I-O-N on the word. So if it's at the end of the word, if it's the suffix T-I-O-N, what it's telling us is this has now become a person, place, or thing. So even in what you call English today, revelation literally means a person, place, or thing that rejoices, or a person that rejoices, a thing we can rejoice over, or a place we can rejoice in. A safe place, if you will. Oh, come on, somebody. Come on, somebody. Are you hearing it? So this is why many of you look at this from the Greco-Roman context, right? The apocalypse, apocalypto, even if you will, right? The apocalyptic thought process is what many have. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. See, many find the Greco-Roman thought process the apocalypse. You know, that's why that was called apocalypse. For those of you who know that, it's called apocalypse because it comes from the Greco-Roman mind. And see, they look at it as something as you would call apocalyptic because they're afraid of it. So look at this. So from one prism, you can be afraid of what's coming up, right? And from the other prism, you can rejoice about what's coming up. I'd rather rebel. I didn't say rebel, but this word will make you sound rebellious. Right? I didn't say rebel. I said revel. It will make you sound rebellious to live this righteously. But I'm here to tell you, I'd rather revel than focus on apocalypse. I'd rather be in a situation where I know that they'll cause me to live forever in a righteous place where I will feel no more pain or anguish or sickness or have no more tears and deal with no more wars. I won't have to have somebody lying to me in Nigeria and in Iran and in Venezuela and trying to tell me that it's about a righteous cause when it's about that oil, right? That's what that is about. The same people that got their hands in, in Iran and we got to protect Israel, right? It's the same people that are in Nigeria talking about, we got to protect the Christians, even though the person over there has offed more Muslims than he has so-called Christians, right? And then on top of that, right? We got to go to Venezuela, to make sure that we protect you guys from recreational activities. Meanwhile, the persons that are giving these recreational activities are closer to the border and they're allowed in by the United States government. Don't forget that the Klekuda, if you will, that was in our streets was given to us by Reagan, who was the first person who ran on Make America Great Again. That's dope, literally. Right? That's who put it in the street. But see, I'm trying to go to a place where I don't have to worry about that. And in the midst of it, I'm trying to be as private as possible and separate because I can't have persons who are the biggest gangbangers trying to tell you and I through Christian nationalism what the word of Yah means. Right? They're afraid of us being a nation. And therefore they're trying to hide the significance, what's assigned to us in Revelation. They're afraid of us becoming a nation, so they hide the revelation. Come on, Holy Spirit, you giving bars today. They're afraid of us becoming a nation, so they hide the revelation, not the revelation. They're hiding what you should be rejoicing. No wonder you're so depressed. No wonder you think that the world's always going to come to an end. No wonder you're like, no matter what happens, it's got to be the word. No matter you don't believe the word, where Christ literally tells us in Matthew 24, yeah, there will be wars and rumors of wars and earthquakes and changing of the season and all these different things, right? These persons will come and they'll say they'll be me, and all these things. Persons will say they'll come and be you. Now a stone will be left upon a stone. It's going to get tough, but these are the beginning of sorrows. But to those who can endure, the same shall be saved. It's interesting. They teach you about being saved, but they don't tell you about that one. We only learn Romans 10:9, but you got to have some endurance. No such thing as the prayer of salvation. It's got to be worked out. You got to endure. Those who are saved are the saved that endure. If you're truly saved by Yeshua, if you're truly saved by Christ, where's your endurance? And if you don't have it yet, then start to develop it. When we were getting ready for a watch night service last night, we did a rehearsal with all the children that partook in the service. And as we were walking around and stuff, we were doing a little bit more walking. He was racing his mom. He was playing soccer with me and stuff like that. We were doing some different things, so start and stopping. But during it or whatever, some of the children, some of the adults that were, you might have noticed he was a little winded. And then he started getting to a point, which all of us do when we're learning, when we're getting better, when we're trying to develop and stuff. He'd have to sit down, and then he started sitting down every time he was getting tired. And I told him towards the end, I was like, "Hey, baby boy, I know it hurts. Matter of fact, Daddy grew up with asthma. I know it hurts, right? Right, my lungs used to try and close up on me. I know it hurts, but I wanted to play basketball. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do that. So guess what I had to do? I had to learn how to go through the pain, right? Not saying you shouldn't get an inhaler, right? Don't. I'm just saying, right? For me personally, I had to learn how. Okay, if I'm gonna stay out there, I can't always come to the sideline. I can't keep coming out the game. If I want to get points up, if I want to get them shots, if I want to be a team leader, if I want to show them that I'll push, right? Then I gotta endure. The same that are saved, we endure because what they find apocalyptic, we revel in, we rejoice in, right? But if I were to also give you the Hebrew term, I'm not giving modern Hebrew, I'm giving Avda, the original, right? That's right. That's right. Amen. Those that endure to the end, right? How you doing, Callum? The Hebrew word, the original, how you doing, Rowland, for this is actually chazan. It's three characters. It's Chet, Zion, and Navan. These three characters put together literally say that this signed off document that we're supposed to live by, it protects us, it is a weapon, and also cultivates us, and it perfects us. Hallelujah, somebody. Right? Can I say that again? This thing called Chazan for us, Hezan, if you will, Chazan. This thing called Chazan actually means that it protects us. It's a weapon for us and cultivates us while perfecting us. Mm. Mm. Right? This revelation that is authorized is supposed to protect, it's supposed to fight, it's supposed to grow, and it's supposed to perfect. This is what we're going to be talking about in this series, y'all. This is why, once again, this is not for everybody, because everybody cannot take the assignment if you don't comprehend the sign that has been given. And I'm not just talking about what month you were born. While there is a little bit of truth to that, even though it's more Greco-Roman now, you don't even know the original Kemetic thing. But there is some truth to the fact that if you're born during a certain time of year, sure, you will have certain types of traits. Right? If you're born with a family to where things are, during a time of year where things are scarce, you're going to pick up certain qualities. So what they call a Libra, I think that's what they say I am, right? And what they call a Libra, if you do some research, you'll discover that like many Libras actually are going to be like persons who are born during a time where there's not as much, or we go into a season where there's not as much, especially if you're doing Christmas and all that other stuff, where you don't have as much because everybody's getting paid. Everybody's using their money for a whole bunch of other things and going into debt. Right? So if you're raised during that time, you're raised during a time where, like, every time it's around your born day, every time, it's time for you to get something around this, every time when you're looking at something and person's looking at you for different things, there's some truth and evidence to that, right? Not on the, we have to worship Scipio or all these different things, or whatever they call Scipio, Libra, what is it, Leo, I don't know all of them, Cancer, whatever, right? We don't worship any of those, and it actually comes once again from African sensibilities, Cushitic and Kemetic sensibilities that were erased by those who came over after Alexander the Great took over in the Ptolemaic dynasty, erased those things and said they're Greek, and then assigned some different persons to it that now you worship, right? But beforehand, it was something that was there, but it was something more to guide you. It was not necessarily something that you were, well, I take that back. Some persons, depending on where you were, they might have worshipped them, depending on what dynasty you're talking about. That being said, we're not talking about that type of sign. Oh yes, sir, brother Thomas. That thing is that's a rabbit hole right here. To be honest, it's it's a rabbit hole. How you doing, Miss Ladybug? Right? I'm not talking about that type of sign. I'm talking about that if you do not know the sign, the signature, right, the significance, what is signified by the one who has been sent, then you'll miss this. Then you'll miss this. All right? It's important that you catch those things, right? If not, you will miss it, right? If you don't catch what's been signified, right, it's signed off on, signified, sign, S-I-G-N. We don't think about it as sign, signified, because we actually pronounce it correctly when that suffix is added to make it signified. But if it is of significance or significance, right, then we must recognize that it's signed off on, it's authorized. Right? It's signed off on, it is authorized. So if it's not authorized by Christ, it's whose revelation? It's whose protection? It's who rejoices in? It is the revelation of Christ. Revelation 1:1. It is whose revelation? It is the revelation of Christ. Now, who gave it to him? Just in case there's any confusion, right? It makes it a point to tell you that as well. See, we're going to talk about chain of command. So just in case you didn't get it, it is a Christ revelation, right? But before we talk about who Christ gave it to us through, first things first, who gave it to him? Right? Who gave it to him? Right? Think about that now, right? It says it right there, Revelation 1:1. It was given to him by Elohim. Yeah, matter of fact, that's something that runs deep, especially in those of us who have, a lot of us, who have connectivity to Southern Church theology, if you will, right? You were taught, a lot of persons not only were taught not to read it, a lot of persons were taught, were afraid of it. There are stories that I grew up with persons, who, because I wasn't raised in church. That being said, when I started getting into church and stuff before I got out, I was around in it for like 15, well, be honest, almost about 20 years, 15 years or so, like in it. And then the last few years kind of being like, okay, it's time to go, right? But I heard a lot of stories, a lot of different places, especially in the United States of America, especially places where, you see people that went up north from Mississippi or went west from, Alabama, Mississippi, persons who came up in different places from Texas, or persons who went to DC from the Carolinas, et cetera, persons who came up, and now they think of themselves as New Yorkers, and things of that nature, right? But if you look at a lot of them, they were taught, do not read Revelation. They would actually get to a point where they were so afraid of it, they would rip it out of their Bibles. I don't know if you've even heard of that before, but there are persons in our culture, in our communities, who literally would rip Revelation out of their Bibles. They were that afraid of it, right? And persons are really afraid to go into it now because There's so much stuff that's in there, and you hear a lot of wild stuff. You hear like, oh, this means this, and this means nuclear weapons, and this means like, because persons don't go through the process of actually like looking at what proper interpretation is. You said you know that from personal experience. Yeah, it was very common for a lot of us who either have peoples from down south, or our peoples is, you know, down south, or churches that we went to down south. It's very common. You don't really touch Revelation. All right, how you doing, Rico? Astrology is something that you can use to be able to get. I use stars even with Google Maps and stuff. To be honest, or what's the or Apple Maps, or whatever, you know, you pay for apps and stuff. I look at stars all the time, right? I look at constellations, especially when we're on the road and we out camping and stuff. Yeah, I use the stars all the time. You know, worshiping the stars is different, right? But you know, I mean, there's a star that comes over us every day called the sun, right? Even though technically we don't look at the sun. Well, anyways, that's a whole nother conversation. But you know, the sun, you know, scientifically speaking, yes, the sun is a star like other stars, right? So stars, you know, what Yah has created to help us is not something that we go, oh, we can't use it, you know. But when we start worshiping it, right? It's like I got water in my cup, but if I ever go to the river and I bow down to it, I got a problem, right? And how you doing, Sister Jennifer? So, like we said, we got to keep this word and guard it. This word has been given to us on assignment. We can't just listen, ready to respond. You've got to hear. If you're only listening to respond, now once again, hear it, study it, and then if it don't make sense, yeah, you say what doesn't make sense. How you doing, Sister Joy? So, all right. So, in this stuff that we're talking about, right? We gotta recognize. We gotta recognize what's going on. Yeah, and even the start of, you know, that was followed, by the way. You know, they used to tell us as Jehovah's Witness. I think some churches used to teach this too. As Jehovah's Witnesses, we were taught that the star was demonic, right? But that's not the case at all. You know, you have to. You got. That's why I say when we're talking about this, this is Christ's revelation given to him by Elohim. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's exactly what it means, right? Achalamat Yechava, be upon thee, if you will, right? How you doing, Sandra? Thanks for being part of the community. So yeah, so this is Christ revelation given to him by Elohim, right? Revelation 1:1. Now let's keep going, right? And it says, and Elohim gave it unto him, and what is this for now? What's the purpose, right? What's the point of the exercise? What's the point of the exercise? Why? Of course, this is supposed to be given unto us, but Christ, who is the one whose signature is upon it, right? Signified. So he's the one who signed off on it that the angel, the messenger, would even give it unto Yehochanan, John, right? So that then John would give it to the seven stars, which are seven messengers who are supposed to give it to the seven assemblies that we're going to get into in Revelation chapter 2 in a little bit in this series, right? So, well, not today, but in a little bit, next few days, right? We're going to take our time, especially with Revelation 1, right? It's the springboard to be able to make sure that we are able to leap to what Yahweh has for us in high places, right? So Revelation 1:1, it's the revelation of Christ, it's the revelation of Mashiach, it's the revelation of Mashiach, the revelation of the Anointed One, the revelation of Christ, given unto him by Elohim, right? To do what? To show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. To do what? Right? So you can read it for yourself, right? So that we don't have to worry about like I'm reading it for you, right? Right? You can read it for yourself. So we don't have to have a conversation. I'm reading into it for you, right? It says what? It is to show unto his servants. Come on, nation. Hashtag we be the nation. It's the first day. Hashtag we be the nation. Come on, nation. Come on, servants of Christ. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 6. Come on, those who serve who? Whose servants? Whose servants? Hmm. Whose servants? Not anybody's. To show unto whose servants, right? The servants of Christ. If you do not serve him, this is not something for you. Hallelujah. Come on. You might as well give him praise right there. Give him honor. Give him glory. I know we don't like that. That's out the text, right? Remember, literacy doesn't mean you can just read it. Literacy means you must have comprehension. You must make it a standard, or you must at least be able to empathize with even characters that are coming forth with, to be able to empathize enough to be able to understand things even from the perspective, or even get it as a manual, which means the mind of the creator. You know, that's what a manual means. It is the mind of the creator, right? So, hear this now. Hear this, beloved. All right. Hear, remember, not listen. Hear. We talked about the difference in this already, right? So hear this, beloved. This is a revelation of Christ, which Elohim gave unto him to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. Right? His servants are being shown things through this that must shortly come to pass. His servants, not everybody, must be shown things that will shortly come to pass. Now, this is a real crucial one, because literally, when we start talking about numerology and things of that nature, we will discover that we'll know what's up with those 2 olive trees. If you don't know who they are, we'll have to go into so-called Old Testament for that eventually. But we're going to have to talk about Moses and Elijah, right? And what their return, or even they're coming back and persons ignoring them, and how long that lasted. We'll have to talk about time, times, and half a time in a dream, which is different than time, times, half a time when you're just walking around in real life, and you have to figure out, even though dreams happen in real life, but you get what I'm saying, right? Making a delineation between when you're awake and when you're asleep, right? Right? So when you're asleep in the dream, a day to Yah is different according to the Bible in the dream than it is when you're walking around, right? See, this is stuff that the servants who know. Remember, let's just go real quick etymology, because even modern etymology, right? If we even look at this word once again, it's signified, signified. It's signified. So if it is signified, the meaning of it, it is the meaning or idea expressed by a sign. If we know the sign, the authority, the one who's authorized and therefore giving us an assignment, if we know him, according to this definition, then we'll know the meaning of what he has assigned us, right? It is right as distinct from the physical form in which it is expressed. So my signature, if you know my signature, if you know my assignment, if you know what I'm called to do, etc., right? Same thing you can put on yourself, by the way. I'm just saying, I'm talking personally. If somebody knows me and knows what my assignment, and knows my signature, and knows certain ways that I speak and I teach and I talk, etc., if you truly know me, right, then you will also know, right, what I do and how distinct I am from others around me. Right. Remember, and persons still try to do this in many places. Some persons successful, unfortunately, but we have persons who try to say that they're me, right? So they'll come to everybody and they'll send you, they'll open up a fake channel and stuff, and they'll start putting videos out, and then they start getting a lot of views and everything too, right? And all of a sudden they'll start DMing our people, and they'll start saying, hey, God told me to tell you this, and you need to know that God's with you and God is faithful, and da da da. And then and somebody come to me later and say, hey, Pastor Kofi, is that you? And I'll be like, what do you mean, is that me? And they'll say, well, there was this person on there, and I saw it's your videos, I know your face, I know your voice, I know your words, but there was something wrong with the signature. I'm sorry. How you doing, Kenneth? Thanks for being part of the community, right? They'll tell me. They'll say, well, I saw it was you, but I just had to ask, like, have you been going around and asking people to give to something on like in Cash App and stuff like that? I was like, no, that's not really how we work. We take donations, but y'all know normally we'll say something out loud or we just tell you where to go. If you feel led, you do what you do. And they'll go, oh, okay, yeah, because that didn't sound like you. And, they kept saying God this and blah, blah, and all this. And I'll go look at the message. And sure enough, yeah. And if you know me, right, we might use it from time to time to teach. But if you know me, that's not something that's really in my vocabulary, right? The same way with the Most High. If this is Christ and we are his servants, right? If we be his sheep, we should know our shepherd's voice. And if somebody starts talking to us and we're like, hold up, that's not what's in the word. That's not what's righteous. That's not this. That's not that, right? If we know, like, if we've taken time out for years to develop something and somebody says, no, you know what, you're going to do blah, blah, we should be able to say no, right? Your relationship with the Most High, that should be in your family, right? If my son came to me and tried to tell me that his mother said thus and such, but he used certain words, I'd be like, ain't no way your mama said that. Right? And if she did, then we need to call her right now. We need to FaceTime her right now because she's going to need to tell me that she told you, because I've never heard her speak like that before, right? Because I know my wife. Right? Because I know my wife. And my knowledge of her, right? My intimacy with her, not just only in the bedchamber, my intimacy with her disallows me, right? And if I really truly love her, it disallows me from rocking with something, even if it be my own son, rocking with something that I ain't put out there. And by the way, how you doing, Queen Lee Boston? I tried to follow you. I think you have to follow me back or accept it, and then once so, then I can go ahead and send you the DM. So thank you for the be a part of the shout out. If you were looking for us to reach out to you, I think you have to follow us, or you have to allow us to follow you, or something like that, because we can't talk on DM unless it considers us to be friends, right? But thank you for your presence. I had that in the back of my head as I was doing some things the other day, and I was like, I got to make sure that I was like, I need to say that, or else if I don't say it today, I'm probably gonna forget. Right, but we got you. So if you are part of the shout out again today, or you stick around or whatever, if you reach out, we'll try to make sure that we get that together. Right, all praises to the Most High. All right. And by the way, that goes for anybody if you're on certain platforms, right? Especially when we do our shout out, you got to make sure that we follow each other, or else it doesn't matter if I follow you, but we don't follow each other. I still can't really connect. Okay. Baba Kasha, it's our pleasure. So. And all these different things. You said if anybody send you email with the blood of Jesus caption. Right, there you go, right? So yeah, so if somebody's out there, if you ever shoot, and that's why even you got to know somebody's signature too. You got all this AI stuff and everything coming out too, but if you know somebody's signature, no, they don't do that. They do not stand like that. They do not sound like that. They do not, they don't hoop, they don't holler, they don't, they're not necessarily in front of crowds like that. Doesn't mean I cannot be in front of a crowd, right? But you'll know that because you know me. In the same manner, we should know Abba, right? Matter of fact, not in the same manner, but in the same manner, yes, in a much greater manner, right? Or in the same vein, in the same manner, but in a greater fashion. We should definitely honor the Most High way more than we would honor a mere mortal such as myself, right? So if we're going to be involved with these things, we have to recognize what these things come from and what's going on with these things, right? Okay. So Revelation chapter 1. See, we're not even really out of verse. We talked about verse 3. We've read verse 2. We read all 6 verses of Revelation 1 through 6. But we got to make sure we take our time with this, because you got to recognize this is not your revelation, right? Nobody cares what you signed off on in this revelation. We only care what you signed off on if you follow or you follow what Christ signed off on. Can I say it again for the people in the back, right? For our nation, or those coming into the nation, or those who are even against the nation and shall go down, because what Yahweh has for us is greater than anything you've ever seen before in your life, right? It doesn't matter what you sign off on if Yah didn't sign off on it. See, that's why it's signified. If Christ didn't sign off on what you're talking about, then I'm be honest with you, I don't really care what you're talking about. Right? I mean, I care to the point of I'll listen to you, but if you're talking about listening to the extent of trying to do something different or trying to be be whatever. If Christ didn't sign off on that for my family, for myself, for my SOC family, etc., if he didn't sign off on his word, if he, right, like, and even we got to be careful. Be careful. That's why I tell you guys, study to show yourselves approved and know the law greater than the scribes and the Pharisees. If I tell you something and Christ didn't sign off on it, you need to have enough in you to say, the Most High didn't tell me that. Right? You need to know that. You need to know him for yourself. Because if not, because look, I'm a human being. I make mistakes. Also, too, you never know. Look, man, every persons make mistakes, persons get whatever. Who knows? I pray that this never happen. I'm pretty sure it'll never happen, but it doesn't mean it cannot ever happen or I don't have it in me because I'm a human being. Shoot, you never know. Could become a sellout. I hope I don't ever be in no buffoonery with a lot of these cats who selling out, right? But could one day. If that happens, right? Don't worry about like Dave Chappelle, we need to have a code word. No, you need to know the word. Right? So if that ever happens, you can just call it out as soon as it happens because you know the word for yourself. Mm-hmm. Right? You need to know the word for yourself. Greater than any scribe, greater than any Pharisee, including me. Right? You need to know it. That means you'll be intimate with it to the point of identity. Canal, that's what it means. Look up the etymology if you need to. You need to be intimate with it to the point of being able to determine what it is, to point it out, to be able to call it out of a lineup. If Yahweh said, I need you to call my word out of a lineup. If he said, I need you, he said, somebody's out here, Yahweh said, somebody's out here committing crime. They're preaching word, they're teaching things that are not of me. Right? He said, I have a lineup. Could you pick them out? If I were to have number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5 speak, would you be able to tell which one is false? Right. You got to have the program. You got to know the default settings. Right. You got to know the software. You got to know all those things. And what happens with many of us is that we don't have the ability to be able to call out that lineup. Right. Like we were talking about earlier, many of us are try to possess the word and not keep it. Right. There's a difference between possessing it even and guarding it. Right. You got to make sure that you're not just in possession of. You can be in possession of something, right? My wallet can be near me, right? But I can turn my back and not keep it, guard it. But if I want to guard it, I'm probably not going to, even though I probably wouldn't put it up here, but just so you guys can see, right? If I want to guard it, it should at least, it's designed to be skinny enough to stay on me, to be kept. If I can keep it, then I can make sure it's closer, right? I can even, in this case, keep it to my heart, keep it close to my heart. But I don't want to show you too much of that because some of you will forget that the love of money is the root of all evil. Right? If somebody catches this that little clip by itself, they'd be like, oh, okay, you talking about no. Right. Anyway, right? So we have to know this is signified and signed. The angel who gives this message to John, before we even talk about John, now Christ, who has been given this message by Elohim, now says, I will give this message to whom? I will give it to a messenger. I will give it to an angel. And this angel will take this and give it to John. I will take this message and I will give it to John. I will take this message and I will deliver it unto John. Why will I deliver it unto John? Why am I delivering this unto John? Why is this messenger, delivering it unto John? Well, because he was sent to do it. And also he sent it unto John for the same reason. This is to show the things that will surely come to be. So he can only do what he's on assignment to. See, it's signified. He's assigned to this. How you doing, Brother Richard? He's assigned to this. You hear me? He's what? He is assigned to this. This is his sign, signature, right? If Christ didn't sign off on, he can only do what Christ told him to do. This is obedience. That's better than sacrifice. He can only do what he's assigned to do. If Christ didn't sign off on it, he can't do it. Right? You got to catch these words now. If the Most High has not assigned you to it, you're not supposed to do it. Well, I thought it would be better if I did. I don't know. If the Most High didn't tell you to do it, well, you know what? I want to work with children. That's noble. Did he assign you to? It's noble. It's righteous intent, but is it righteous to go against the word? You see, this is how powerful this word is. Every jot, every tittle, right? Until heaven and earth pass, we shouldn't change anything that it says or even the way it's written. You know, I want to work with our senior citizens. Great. Were you assigned to it? Matter of fact, when we go and get our jobs, and I get it, we're in our land of our captivity. We got to do what we got to do. Sometimes those bills are coming due, and even though Yah has been keeping us for some reason, we like, well, we got to go back. Okay, did Yah call you to that though? Do you ever think to yourself? Do you ever not just watch this? Do you ever not just pray for a job, but do you pray that Yah puts you where you should work? Remember, the word job is the word toil. Do you ever make sure that you are placed where Yah says? Do you ever pray, put me where you want me to work? Or do you just say, Yah, I need a job. I'll take anything. Now, he doesn't really want you to have anything, but he can grant that request. You know, it's not that difficult. Okay, you want anything? I mean, I can find it. Yeah, I can find it. But see, also too, a lot of us don't like to pray like that because that means that also you got to be held accountable. If you know the vision and you have this and blah blah, you got to do some things yourself too. The angel can only tell John exactly what Christ has told him. That's it. The messenger, angel really means messenger. The messenger can only tell John what the Most High has told him. How you doing, Brother Allen? How you doing, Sister Quotation? Right? That's it. He can't go outside of it. If he goes outside of it, he's no longer worthy of the message that he carries. Come on, somebody. I need you to catch this. He's no longer worthy of the message he carries if he goes outside of it. Uh-oh. Holy Spirit, I felt that somebody don't want to hear that. It's the truth, though. Right? Tell the truth, shame the devil. That's what we like to say, right? He can only tell John. Hear this, beloved. He can only tell John what he's been told. He cannot add to, Revelation 22. He cannot add to, and he cannot take it away. That's it. He cannot add to, and he cannot take it away. And why did John receive this revelation? Because John doesn't add to, and he doesn't take it away. See, authority, it goes downhill, as the old thing said, right? In the military, we used to say a little different. We used to say, right, it rolls downhill. But authority rolls downhill. Alachem, through the person of Yeshua, especially because John has a relationship with him, but also too because at that name every knee will bow, right? Messenger, John, other messengers that now have assembly, right, go to assemblies, and then the assemblies themselves. And you could break down authority even from there, right? So if it's not authorized, then it's not a go. That's word. That's word. Yeah, that's right. John knew what it is, what it was, and what it forever will be. We'll get more into that even tomorrow, right? But John could be trusted with this message that should never be changed. So the one who does not change Even when heaven and earth passes away, he does not change. That's why his word does not change. So the one who does not change gives a message to the one that came to earth, to the representation of him on earth, to literally his physical being, if you will, right? And gives the message because that person came down to earth and did not change, right? Then gives it unto the messenger who cannot change it. You know, they're fallen angels at this point, right? There's angels who have fallen at this point. This angel could have changed, but it hasn't changed up. Gives it to John, the revelator, who has not changed. So any other messenger, when we get into the seven stars and all that later on in this series, any messenger who will change or change the word, more importantly, change the word, they will mess around and mess up the candlestick or the assembly. And when the assembly gets messed up, the light goes out. And what's happened on a lot of assemblies who swear up and down that they are in this word, right? They swear they are certified even. They are missing the point. They have no light. Their candle keeps getting put out. There are cities set on a hill, but can't nobody see them. Or maybe even look at it this way. They're a city that should be on a hill, but rather than be seen, they've decided it's better to go ahead and be hidden. See, John could receive a message that can't be changed because John had proven that he would preach a message and not change it. Remember, those of us who've been in this Galatians series, Galatians chapter 2, Paul came and visited Andrew, Peter, and John. I'm sorry, James, Peter, and John. Excuse me, James, Peter, and John. And John, James, Peter, and Paul all sat down to make sure that everything they were preaching was exactly the same. Because if it was changed, it can't be the word. Sorry, y'all. What's going on? Okay. Sorry about that. I thought we had lost him for a second. Sorry about that, y'all. I thought something was going on with the signal. Can everybody still hear me and see me okay? Yes, no, maybe so. Just let me know. You gotta know him for yourself. Be intimate to the point of identity. That's right. That's what knowing is. To canal. All right, thank you. Right. So if you are not intimate with the Most High, if you don't know him for yourself, you won't know his signature. Now, you shouldn't forge his signature, but you should know his signet. Same thing. Signature. Matter of fact, signature, you get it? Right? You should know the writing, right? If somebody writes me a letter and my wife writes me a letter, I should know my wife's handwriting. I'm not even always the greatest at stuff like that. But if she writes me something, I should be able to be like, okay, this is different than hers. I know a lot of us don't write anymore. That used to be a thing, young folk. young persons, if you listen to me, I promise you, we used to actually know how to identify somebody through their handwriting. Now you'd be looking to see how many caps they use and blah blah and all that. But there was a time, right, where we could tell your cursive, right, your penmanship, we called it. All right, I'm just messing around on that part. But this word is so serious. You got to know the sign. So John, who had shown that he would pay attention to the signs and not change, right, what he had been assigned, he has shown it to the point to remember this is the same John that Christ trusts with his own mama, right? What we call the third word of the seven last words, affectionately called the seven last words, right? He says, "Mother, behold thy son. Son, behold thy mother." See, John has relationship with Christ. It's on another level. When all the disciples ran away, including John, only one disciple came back and was there at his feet when he was hanging, when he was becoming a curse for others. And at least somebody had enough sense to come back and say, "I stand with you, bro. Big bro." This is the one that was always in his bosom. And while he's sitting there, right, so that means he was always trying to get embraced. He was always trying to get a hug. He was a young man, right? And Christ was like a big brother to him. Not just only the Messiah, he had familial bond with Christ, right? Christ is helping him grow up Those 3.5 years he spent with Christ is like no other 3.5 years. I know they told you, they showed you in the Titanic what was it, a couple days or a few days would do for you. Right? Where some woman that's still supposed to be married to some other guy, and somehow somebody's still fantasizing about some other guy, whatever that is. Right? but the reality is that these 3.5 years meant so much under John, right? That he lived righteously. He kept taking care of Christ's mama even after he was gone, right? He makes sure that when he writes what we call the book of John, it's really about Christ. It's really these books are called the evangelism, or what we used to evangelize according to Christ, right? According to John, they're really long names, right? What we used to evangelize according to Christ. Or even you could put it like this to shorten it some, because I'll be here all day trying to say these titles. It's what we used to evangelize according to Matthew. What we used to evangelize according to Mark. What we used to evangelize according to Luke. What we used to evangelize according to John. Right? And when John, but that's not what he would have called it. That's what we affectionately call it nowadays, right? And so when we use these terms, right? When John writes his experiences with Christ before he writes four, or three other epistles and this signified letter, if you will, the signified message unto us from Christ. When he writes the book, what we call the book of John, Bogwan, Audrey, how you doing? John says, I did not write this book so that I could tell you everything that Christ did. Go read the book of John when you have a chance, right? He tells you that. I believe it's John 21. I could be off on that. It's towards the end, right? The last few chapters. But he says, I did not write this book, right? Or I did not write this epistle. I did not write this letter. I did not write, I don't know what he would have called it. They called it book, which means letter. Maybe he wrote it as a letter form. We're not 100% sure. But we do know this: when he wrote it, he said, I did not write this that you would just, know everything he did. He said, if we tried to tell you everything that Christ did, you could write books and books and books, and the earth could not contain all the things that Christ did while he was here. He said, that's not the point of this. He said, the reason I write this is that you might believe. Relationship. He hasn't stopped believing because Christ is no longer with him. He hasn't believed something new or some kind of New Testament just because Holy Spirit has shown up and Christ has left. He hasn't stopped taking care of mama. Well, maybe at this point in Revelation, probably he's an old man by now, right? But he didn't stop taking care of mama because Christ asked him to, because Christ was no longer there. Christ had finished coming back and had left. He's still faithful. He's still faithful. He still keeps holy days. He's still faithful. Right? We know that he does because Paul did it. Remember, him and Paul compared notes. So if Paul kept Passover, then John kept Passover. If Paul preached Passover to Gentiles, then John preached it to Israel. See, this is why we got to know the word holistically, right? We got to come out of some of this stuff that we're in, where we're letting persons, fracture this and everything. Relationship is crucial and key, especially with one another. But even this relationship with the Most High, with Christ, he says that he basically, hey, I received this revelation because of my relationship. He says, I wrote about Christ so that you would believe. I wrote about relationship. And if we be the nation, we're here to make sure that as a nation, we have relationship with the Most High. We're not here just randomly. We're not just here to make sure that you got more degrees in the thermometer, to make sure that you can quote scripture, right, and all that stuff or whatever, but you can't make sure that you love your brother who you see every day. We're not here so that you can be better at and become more accusatory than somebody else and be able to debate at a higher level. If that's all that you got, then that's all you got, right? But we build community. We're here to build community, right? We're here, we be the nation. We got to build. Even in Jeremiah 29 that somebody put up earlier, before you get to verse 9, before you get to verse 11, that's everybody's favorite part of Jeremiah 29. Verse 4 on starts talking about what you got to do, even in the land of your captivity, if you be the nation. The goal is to come back and to be obedient and to come back into obedience. And how you doing to our other brother Aaron? Praise God for you, right? So we got to get this stuff together. We got to recognize how you doing, brother Jay, right? We got to have this stuff on, the full armor on. We have to be ready to hear. Shema Yachad Sha'al. All right. So this is something that is signed off on, right? Roll with me now. It's signed off on by right by his angel unto the servant Yehochanan, unto John. So John has received this now. Now, verse 2, Revelation 1, verse 2, who bear record. John has been given an assignment. What is John going to do? Right? John is going to bear record of the word of Elohim and of the testimony of Yeshua Mashiach and of all things that he saw. He's going to do what? He is going to bear record, right? So he's going to testify. He's going to record it for you, but he's also going to testify, right? He's going to bear record of the word of Elohim, right? Even if something is bare, if your cupboard is bare, what does that mean? I know somebody's going to say it's empty, but what else? You know why they call it bare? It's not just because it's empty. How you doing, Leonard? Thanks for being on. Right? It's not just because it's empty. They call it bare because if your cupboard is full of food, right, or full of whatever, your cupboard is thank you, is naked. You ever heard the term bare naked? I know some of us heard buck naked, right? But you ever bare naked? There used to be a group. I don't know if I listened to their songs or not. I had to go back and look. But there used to be a rock group called Bare Naked Ladies or something like that, right? But bare naked, right? I'm telling on myself. It was their stuff wasn't, at least as far as I remember. It could be terrible. I don't think it was horrendous or anything. But anyways, right? But bare naked. So the reason why it's bare is because you can see the shelf. If you're considered to be doing really well, right, your shelf can't be seen, right? If you got a whole bunch of food, a whole bunch of canned items, boxed items, whatever, right, you can't see the shelf. You can't see the bottom of it. But when I can see the bottom of it, right, I got a problem. Right? Or one would assume that at least it's time to go shopping, right? If the cupboard's bare, then it means that there's a problem. There's something going on here, right? We need to take a look at this. Might just need to go to the store. Prayerfully, that's all it is. Or maybe we have another place that we keep some items, and we need to bring some of those items in. But if we got a bare, right? In my father's apartment to this day, there's a certain place in the kitchen right underneath a shelf that you can sit down and eat at. And if you go in there and you see it bare, something's wrong, because you usually you're going to see not just a case of water, you're going to see about 2-3 cases of water. Right? If you see there's no water there, something's not right. If I go there and there's no water on the floor, I'm gonna say, hey, I need to go to the store and pick you up something. Right? He makes great money. So if something's there, you're like, you all right? Blah blah. Do I need to go? You need a ride? Blah blah. Because he should not. Because he doesn't have that area of his house bare. Right? He doesn't have it uncovered, naked. Right? But here, it's saying that you're about to have something unveiled, right? This is not the sinful nakedness one might think, by the way, so we can have proper context. Verse 2 says, he's about to bear record. He's going to bear record. He's going to make sure that he records in such a way that what was behind the veil, if you will now be put in front of you. He's about to flip the veil to the other side that you might see the face of this message. Right? What was once a mystery for you is now ready to be revealed. This is what we're going into. You see that? So if I bear record, I'm saying that I should be giving you everything to the point to where you can see it for yourself. So if I do what I'm assigned to do, then I'm coming to do what John has delivered down to the messengers who are supposed to give the message out, which is to bear the same record. Remember, this is authority. It's signed off on, right? Elohim gives it to Christ. Christ gives it to his angel, signs off on it. His angel signs off on it to give it to John. John, when we keep on going later on in this series, we'll discover he has to give it to the messengers, right, who are on earth with these assemblies, these seven assemblies we're going to get into in Revelation, eventually Revelation 2 and 3. These seven assemblies represent seven different ways of looking at the kingdom even on today, or even within today, if you will. How you doing, user 5015125800899, etc. Right? Welcome on board, right? Welcome on board. So So when you're giving your message, when you're walking this thing, when you're living by this, you got to live in such a way, or you got to live in such a way, first of all, you recognize that, especially if you're living by this particular message, revelation, this message is supposed to be given to you bare, right? You're going to see it if done correctly in a manner that you've never seen it before. Or if you know everything, then prayerfully you'll be able to help me to make sure the person see it the way they're supposed to see it, right? But that's a chain of command, which we don't like for some reason. But that's how this thing works. So I'm not supposed to give you anything outside of what it says, and even if I'm explaining it to you, if I can't explain it to you outside of the confines of the word of Yah, right? I can't just say I feel like this about something. I can't go outside of culture. I can't go outside of something that's not considered to be canon and say, well, you know, this thing over here, right? If this thing over here matches with what canon says, cool. But if it's not, I can't do that. Like we even did yesterday. I even found out more information, by the way, when we were talking about Jasher. And we were talking about yesterday, Jasher 33:11. You know, Jasher 33. We started. Actually, hold on. Which one did we talk about yesterday? Jasher 24 or Jasher 6? Jasher 6. Okay, now I'm all over the place. Is Genesis 24, Jasher 6 or something like that? I don't know. Now I'm all over the place. But we were talking about the age, right? I found out more information. I'm gonna make sure that I get more before we go back into it, right? Because actually I've already found out some indicators that they might not have. The age is the age, but they might not have done stuff when they first met. We'll get to that another time, right? When it's time for that. Maybe when the next Q&A will come directly back to that. That being said, though, even in that, I still, until I have something I can give to you and say, it is written, da da da. If it's not that, then it's still an opinion, right? Matter of fact, it could be a biased opinion because I want it to work the way I want it to work so well. So if we give this message, we must make sure we're being shown here. It must be signed off on. If you're given a if this message has not been signed off on by Christ that you're given, this walk, this talk, what you're teaching to your children is not signed off by the Most High, signed off on, is how we would say that, signed off by or signed off on by, I don't know, whatever, right? The Most High, then we shouldn't be doing it. So he bears record of the word of Elohim. Look at it. Elohim, and the testimony of Christ, and all things that he saw. What is it? It's the same chain of command. Elohim, testimony of Christ, and all things that he saw. Who's going to show him what he sees? The angel. That's mentioned in Revelation chapter 1. He got to do the same. It's got to be the same thing. It's got to be the same order. It's got to be the same instruction. It can't change up. Verse 2 seems like a little throwaway a lot of times, but we got to make sure at least we say that about it. All right. Now, verse 3, we already talked about this already, so we're just reiterating what we already said. But that being said, Balak is he that readeth, right? Number 1, I got to read it. Number 2, I have to do what? I have to hear the words of this prophecy, right? So I read the prophecy, I hear, not listen, I hear, Shema, I hear the words of this prophecy. And then I keep or guard those things which are written therein. And guess what? Why do I need to do this more than ever? Why was it given to me? To show forth the things that shall shortly come to pass. Well, verse 3 says, for the time at hand. The time is at hand. Right? In other words, this isn't, oh, it's going to come. It's now. When we're talking about that beast and the seven heads, we've experienced all seven. We've been influenced by all seven heads in Revelation 12 and Revelation 13. Right? We've been influenced by the beast. Right? That the great harlot sits upon. Right? That has blood soaked into it. That governs you. Right? What we call today government. We've already been influenced by this. right? We're living in the times where the mark is trying to be put upon you right now. You're going to have to figure out whom you will serve. We're living in a time where persons are saying Israel doesn't matter. Balaam doctrine reigns supreme. Nicolaitan doctrine, persons are using pulpits to be able to go ahead and conquer folk rather than help them and develop them and become a nation. Right? We're in these times right now. We're in these times right now. I'm on. Right now. Right now. We're in these times. Right? So the time is at hand. Christ sent this and said, hey, these things shall shortly come to pass. And just in case you didn't get it, it's doubled up on. The time is now. Nicolaitans. So we're going to get deeper into that when we actually get to Ephesus. And then, of course, when we get to Pergamos and really the whole Pergamon dynasty, right? The seven assemblies of the are located in seven cities, or which used to formerly be, Greek city states, but they were really one Greek city state under Pergamos, right? Now, at this point, they would have been a puppet state. So it's showing that they all belong to the same beast, and they're being used at different cities, represent different things. Like Ephesus, it talks about the loss of the first love, Artemis, and all that stuff, and talking about Smyrna, who's really Israel. Talking about Pergamos itself, dealing with Balaam doctrine, which is a stumbling block paid for by Balak to make sure that we would stumble. You'll see in number 1 and number 3 that I just mentioned, Nicolaitan deeds and Nicolaitan doctrine, right? And so the Nicolaitans, basically, if you go deep into it, these are persons who rule, conquer, and also use different deities and spirits and stuff like that, like Artemis and even gymnasium spirit. You'll see later on, with Sardis and stuff like that. If you study what Sardis was known for, Sardis, right, and all these different things. But the Nicolaitans, like if you break down even Nicolaitan, right, you're really talking about one who conquers. If we talk about denotation, we're talking about persons who are using this stuff to conquer, to try and get you to bow down and stuff. Now, if we're talking about Nicolaitan, as far as some of this stuff is going to wait, right? It's not Q&A today. I still got some stuff to get through. That being said, you know, we know that there's way more to go into, which we will in this series, as far as their, not only geography, but their thought process, what they were known as, what's their belief and stuff. But they were persons who are working really diligently to make sure that persons are going towards a certain spirit. These assemblies that are in different places are dealing with Nicolaitans who use this type of spirit, in the spirit of trying to conquer others, right? Now, if we're talking about even Nicolaiti, or right, as far as I was talking more connotative, not denotative, right? So if we're talking about connotative, we can talk about like even persons as lay persons, persons use their pulpits to conquer them, right? So I was talking more connotatively, but we'll go into all that. We got a lot of time in this series, and if you missed something, by the way, we got these recorded, so you can always listen to the recordings, on podcasts, certain parts of it on Clapper, look up the whole thing on YouTube. You can look them up on Facebook and stuff as well, right? But you can always come in on TikTok, of course, still too, right? So, but anyway, we'll get to that stuff. But yeah, so when we're speaking on these things, I'm sorry, where are we at? The time is at hand. All these things that we're seeing, persons have lost their first love. Persons are even, matter of fact, that Artemis spirit. I'm not sure if this. I think this was for New Year's Eve. And once again, I bring this person up just because this person just be putting themselves out, and I really be trying to ignore this brother, but it's almost like he just want to be in your face. Pastor Jamal Bryant, New Year's Eve. Did anybody see what his wife was wearing? And I'm not here to slut shame. As a matter of fact, I'm not even one of those persons that think that your wife can't show, more of her body than what y'all think. Some of y'all are so perverted that she can't wear stuff that they wore in Israel. I know some of y'all think that women in Israel were just always covered up to the eyes and stuff. but they was, women in Israel, we know what they wore. It tells us. It tells us even what they danced in. So we actually know exactly. Well, I can't say exactly everything they wore, but we know, yeah, there were times they were covered up and stuff. There's times when they could wear stuff to where they could reveal their legs and things too. Like they danced, they had bells on their ankles and stuff. They had things that were down there, whatever. Like there's different things that they wore. We know what time it is for that, right? But that being said, Pastor Jamal Bryant's wife, she had. Now I guess it's sisters. Forgive me, I don't know. What would you call it? It's the same. it's designed to where I don't know what the word for it is when you get a dress and it looks like you can see all the skin, but really it's supposed to be the same tone as the skin, right? Whatever that's called, I don't know what that's called, but so that if she's whatever color, I don't know what color you would describe her as. She brown, and so she gets the same shade of brown, and she puts it on the dress so that the dress matches her skin and all that, right? But when you look at that dress was not meant just to be like a nice, elegant dress. When you look at that dress, like I had to turn because I was like, look, like it's one of them things where I realized it was tonal, but I was like, are you trying to show me like your stuff? Like you trying to show me whatever? Skin tone is that well yeah, the skin tone. I don't know if there's a specific name for how they stitch that or whatever, right? But whatever that is, right? If and I saw it and I was like, yeah, this clearly is not you know, I don't even know. Maybe it wasn't New Year's. It was posted on New Year's Eve or whatever, right? So maybe it wasn't originally. Maybe that's not what it was for. But when you see stuff like that, and that's what you continue to project, right? The time is at hand. Like we need to recognize persons are doing that, and you're supposed to be leading in rebirth church, whatever it's called, right? New rebirth, whatever it is. It's huge. It's like it's a city. The amount that worship there is like a mini city, right? And you did that obviously where you were trying to get that type of attention because of how you designed it. Go look at the dress if you don't know what I'm talking about. It's a black dress. It kind of looks to me like a butterfly kind of thing, but and I could see somebody trying to say it's elegant in a way, but you obviously were trying to bring attention to somebody to look at your body. And hey, some dudes are perverts. I get that, right? That being said, used to be one. To be honest, some dudes are perverts. That being said, right? There's a difference between like, oh, you just wearing something the guy can't take his eyes off you, and he need to get better about that, and you wearing something specifically to make sure that for the reason of lust, somebody will look at you, right? And that's the leadership that we have. The Bible tells us that we have to preach against that, right? We should be against the deeds of the Nicolaitans, right? We should call out those who say they are apostles and are not. We should call out these things, right? That are there. This is what the word says. How you doing, Sister Anastasia? Right? So I'm not trying to, once again, I'm not doing the whole what people call slut shaming. You'd be surprised. First of all, my wife is my wife, right? My wife is my wife. So I don't really be paying attention to what your wife wears, whatever, for real, for real. Like I know there's certain boundaries, but I'm just saying that's not for me, right? My wife doesn't submit to every husband. That she submits to the mission of her husband. That's the word. So I really don't have but so much to say, right? Unless you wild, right? Unless like I'm trying to baptize you and you coming up in a G string or something crazy like that. It ain't my you know what I'm saying? It ain't got nothing to do with me, right? Because I'm not with you like that. So that's I don't trip like that. What I'm saying though is you're a leader. You're supposed to be a leader of the nation. That's what you say. Actually, he wouldn't say that, would he? Right? But you're supposed to be a leader of Yahadashah. You're supposed to be giving us the truth. How you doing, Hebrew enrichment? You're supposed to be trying to do, and how you doing, Sister Lawana? You're supposed to be doing all this wild stuff, or I'm sorry, all this stuff to help us. And here it is that you're promoting the very thing that some of your brothers have an issue with. Matter of fact, if we keep it about, shoot, you down in Georgia, some of your sisters got an issue with. I know you don't want to hear that. I'm keeping it a buck. Y'all know about Atlanta. If you don't know about Atlanta, do some research. You said you saw it, her husband bought it. He likes it, he approved it. Yeah, and by the way, once again, it's her husband. I'm just saying there's a time and a place even. Maybe that dress is acceptable somewhere, but not when you say, hey, we doing this for the kingdom. You know what I'm saying? Like there's time and place for everything. There's a time and a place that if you hang around me, shoot, you might see, it's very rare, but you might see Pastor Kofi with his shirt off and we swimming. Right? Very rare. Even I think I've only done around SOC maybe once. And it's just because I couldn't put something together and I needed what I was wearing on top. Right? So we were all going swimming. It's like, hey, whatever. I think I did it once at a pool somewhere. Was it in Florida? Somewhere. I did it once. Right? But it's very rare. Right? But I'm not gonna get on that. That being said, no matter how chiseled I get, no matter how much somebody says, oh, well, it's okay, you're a man, you can show whatever. I'm not gonna come on here. You know what I'm saying? I'm not coming on here. right? With no shirt on. Even if everybody was like, "Oh, it's cool," no, it's not. Like there's a time and a place, and I'm not saying I'm the most handsome dude or got the body going on, but there's a time and a place. Is there not? I believe so. Anyways, I might be going too far into that. I'm not sure, right? I think Holy Spirit's telling me to wrap it up. I feel like it, so I'll leave that alone. I'm just saying though, if we be the nation, we don't turn it off, right? Hey, how you doing, Wakanda? Right? We don't get to turn it off, right? I'm just saying the law, there's laws in place for a reason. There's things that we don't do for a reason. There's times where it even tells us what to wear. Even if I'm not talking about just perversion or what we think is perverted as far as only sexually perverted, there's different types of perversion. It was on the pool slide. There you go. I was like, I know I wore it somewhere around SOC somewhere. We had fun and we were going down that slide, and that slide was picking up so fast that we weren't even staying on it. The slide was going so fast that our bodies were lifting up. It was crazy, right? That pool slide and then the tubes that we went around too. That was a lot of fun. Shoot, we might have to make that a destination for all the children at some point. Do something down there. That was a lot of fun. Anyway, um, but yeah, but there's a time and a place, right? I wouldn't be hanging around the children like that. You know what I'm saying? We might go swimming like that. Cool. I'm not gonna hang around the babies like that, right? Just randomly on a Tuesday and pull up, right? Somebody be like, "What you doing with no shirt on?" You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, I think the point has been made. All right. So, in all these things that we're going through and we're seeing and we're discussing on today, right? And all the things that we're seeing and we're discussing and we're going through today, right? We have to make sure that we look at those things, right? So so now the time is at hand. We're seeing some stuff. So now Revelation chapter 1, verse 4. Yehoshaphat, or John, to the seven assemblies, right? So John has been given this for the time is at hand to make sure we know about the things that are to come. All right, John, who are you supposed to give this to? To the seven assemblies, right? Right, Zion, Kodeschem, right? To the seven assemblies, which are in Asia, right? Which really wouldn't even be called Asia back then, but that's what we. So they're making the point to tell you that really these are really Greco-Roman. This is really a Greek puppet state. These of Pergamos. These seven assemblies: Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamos, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, and um, and Laodicea. They're all really part of something that used to be called the Pergamine dynasty. It used to be under the Greeks. The Greeks have since been beaten by the Romans. The Romans allowed the Greeks to be in power as long as they are a puppet state. All right. How you doing, Rose K? Thanks for being on. Thank y'all for sharing the live. So these seven assemblies, which they say are in Asia, you might even think Asia Minor of that time. I'm going to try and put together a map for you guys at some point for this. And so the line will not go away permanently, but during this, especially when we start talking about the seven assemblies and some things going on, I'll try to have a little map for a little bit so we can look at it and you guys can see exactly what we're talking about and you can kind of get the gist of it. Um, but anyways, I'm sorry. But for now, you just have to think. If you don't know where Asia Minor is and what's going on in this time frame, we'll make sure we get you those details. All right. All right. You have a great day, Sister Carla. Be careful and y'all have a great time. Let baby boy we said what's up. All right. So John chapter 1, verse 4. And I know you already told him this, you showed it to him, whatever, but love the locks. Tell him keep going. He's doing great, looking well, growing strong. All right. Revelation chapter 1, verse 4. John, to the seven assemblies, he's supposed to give this message, which are in Asia, right? Grace, which is charis in the Greek, right? Not charisma. Charisma is a gift. But charis, charis, if you will, right? What we call charis, or the beginning of charisma, right? Charis is, and by the way, the name Karen actually means charis. So when you call somebody a Karen, that's something that you might want to think about too, right? If you have the name Karen, Karen actually comes from charis, right? But anyways, charis. Let's see. So he says charis, grace, or kachan, avlen. Charis or kachan, grace, does not mean unmerited favor. We got to make sure we talk about this. SOC, you probably heard me say this 7 million times by now. There's going to be 7 million one, right? Grace does not mean unmerited favor. Anybody telling you that is a lie, right? If you look up the term grace, grace is charis. And if you look up charis, charis does not mean unmerited favor. It means for you to live inside of something, even for something to live inside of you, right? So grace is even the presence or who the Most High is. So when it talks about his grace is sufficient, it's really saying who the Most High is sufficient, right? He provides all my needs. His presence is sufficient. He's omnipresent. His omnipresence is sufficient. He's omnipotent. His potency is what? Sufficient, right? He's omniscient, right? His omniscience, if you will, is sufficient, right? That's because he has what you call grace. When you are in his grace, right, you are in his presence, and his presence is fullness of joy, right? Abide in you, abide in me, and I in you, says Christ, the same Christ who was signed off on this message to be given through the messenger to John to now be given to those of us who were supposed to give it to the seven assemblies. That's what grace actually is. Many of us were taught that grace means unmerited favor, which is why it's difficult to deal with a lot of teachings of Paul, because we believe, because somebody started telling us that way back when, we have this belief, and therefore whenever we see the word grace, we think that grace means that one doesn't deserve. Now I'm skipping ahead in Revelation, right? We're not going to go over it, therefore, deeply today, right? We have a long ways to go in the series before we get here. But if we go to a familiar passage of scripture, Revelation chapter 20. Matter of fact, on your own time, read this. I'm gonna just talk about it real quick. Revelation chapter 20, verses 11 through 15. Revelation chapter 20, verses 11 through 15. And when you read there, you will discover that it is not by grace alone, neither is it by works alone. Faith and works have to go together. But if you truly have faith in something, it tells us that you will have works that back that up. Right? All right, right. If my son truly believes or has faith, even in his father, and before somebody gives me, the connotation and stuff like that, we talk about specific to the Bible. So in the Bible, especially in what you call the New Testament, they're using a Greek word there a lot of times that you're referring to, or the context is that you're referring to, which is pistes or pistis, right? And it means faith and belief. So those words are pretty much interchangeable almost every single time you see them in what you call the New Testament, right? They're using the word faith or they're using the word belief. And by the way, faith just simply means believing in the things that have not necessarily manifested yet, or believing in somebody fully, trusting them fully, right? That's what faith even goes to. I know there's modern definitions. I'm telling you the context in which we're coming through, right? Because we be the nation who shall believe our report. I'm not reporting through somebody else's prism. I'm reporting to you what we believe as a nation, right? Right? That's what I'm reporting you from. So if you believe or have, so if my son believes or has faith in what his father says, he'll do it. Right? I actually operate with my son like that all the time. I don't really go behind my son and like watch over his shoulder. If I tell you, son, like when you get in here, don't turn on the game first, blah blah, this and that or whatever. It's very rare that he doesn't do it. But if I catch him doing something or whatever, then I say, hey, the works. I don't want to hear about this, that, whatever. I want to hear about. I'm looking at your works, right? You said that you have faith in what I said, and I told you there's a reward that would come. I told you what to do, and I saw that you didn't do what you were supposed to. You must not have the faith in it like you really said. And if you go and read Revelation chapter 20, verses 11 through 15, you will discover that, yeah, like your work, they're going to look at the scrolls. When you go before the Most High, the angels will pull out the scrolls that have already been written and start scrolling through and start saying, hey, did you do what you were supposed to do? Right? Do your works match? And if your works do not match what you say you believe, then it says that what? It says that you will surely experience the second death, which also means being thrown into the lake of fire, along with hell and with the Satan and all that. Right? And how you doing, JR? right? That's what, right? So your works do matter, and you're going to see this over and over again when we get to the seven assemblies in Revelation 2 and 3. He's going to start off by saying every time, right? I like here speaketh so and so who is so and so right here, or well here speaks Yehoshua. So here speaks Yehoshua who here's the the fifth assembly, no, the sixth assembly, assembly of Philadelphia, right? Um, it starts off in what Revelation chapter 3 verse 7, and it says like he says that he is the one who is holy, who is true, and has the key of David, right? And he'll go through all this, and then he says, "I know thy works." Right? He says it for every assembly. Ephesus, before he says you lost your first love, I know thy works. How you doing, Johan? If I didn't say so already, right? I know thy work. He says constantly, consistently, over and over again. I know thy works. I know thy work. I know thy works. I know how this thing works. I know what you do. I'm paying attention to what you do. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have faith, but if you have faith, then I should see something to verify it. Right? Your faith becomes the signature. I'm sorry, your works become the signature that signs off on your faith. You can also look at it like your faith should sign off on your works. If I say I believe that I should be faithful to my wife, then you should look at my works, right? If you follow me as a pastor, you follow me as whatever. You follow me as a brother. You follow the words that I say, whatever. Watch this. One of the greatest things you can do is look at my works. When somebody comes or somebody attacks this or that or whatever, man, he not even all that or whatever. Okay, well he preaches a lot about being faithful to his wife. What does his wife have to say? Right? He preaches a lot about making sure that he doesn't speak profane words. What do his words do? He speaks a lot about trying to make sure that that he's there for persons and that we give as much as we can, and even if we don't have that much, such as we have, we give unto thee. Hey, what you know? Do we does he make sure? Does he actually live by that? He tells us to keep in contact and connect and call persons. Does he call persons? Does he connect? Does he answer text? Right? You see that? In all these different things, we must recognize and realize what's going on. You see that? In all these different things, we must realize and recognize what's going on. We have to operate. Your work should show something. He's going to say it to every single one. And then he's going to say, repent, right? He's going to tell each one to repent. And he's going to say to every single one, those who have ears to hear, Shema, let them hear what the assembly says, right? What Yehoshua, or what, sorry, the Vakakudash says to the assembly. So I should be able to look at your works, right? If somebody says we're going to get a calendar, fine, you get a calendar. Does the calendar work? You see? You see what I'm saying? Like we have this weird thing where we've been taught that grace somehow gets rid of works. When faith without works has no life, therefore works without faith has no life. We're not saying do works only and have no faith. This is why Paul teaches us that we don't serve the law, we serve Christ. The Christ was right. The law was created to protect us, right? The moral lawgiver, who is Christ, is the Word and the one who gave us the Word before the foundation of the world. We're not following the law because we serve it. We're following the law. This is what Paul says, right? If you're in a mindset where you think you serve the law, that's where you've messed up. That's when you make it the law of the flesh, or the law of sin, rather, right? Because you put your flesh on it. So now, since you think you serve the law, you are put in a position to where it must be served, and it is it remains your schoolmaster, right? But when you have the law, you are under a new, right. You no longer need the schoolmaster. You're no longer under the principle, but the principles that are there you still keep. So I have faith in Christ. Christ kept the law. I keep the law, not because I'm still going to Mount Eagle Elementary School, right? That's not why I keep the law. I keep the law, right? Because, all right, I keep what I learned in school, rather, if you're going by that same context, those of you who understand from Galatians. I keep the law because the law is actually something that still is with me, right? I don't need somebody to teach me and keep up with me on 2 + 2 is 4. But when I go to the store, if somebody were to give me two singles and then give me two singles again, I would know that that's $4. I learned it in school, but just because I'm out of school doesn't mean that I don't keep what I learned. There used to be a show. Who used to host that? Was it Jeff Foxworthy? The guy used to always do the "You know you're a redneck if" jokes from what, the '90s, '80s, '90s. He's probably still around somewhere, right? But he used to do that show or whatever. And the reason why it's not even that you're not as smart as a fourth grader, you don't have as much information, but it's because you're not using it. When you use it, you lose it. And a lot of us don't recognize because we've lost it, or we don't use it that often, we've lost it. We don't use the law. We don't use the word. This is why somebody can come out with a movie and tell you that Moses went down the Nile River, and Black is King can come out and tell you he went down the Nile River, right? What is it? 10 Commandments? He went down the Nile River. What's the other one? Where they sing "Deliver Us" in that one or whatever. Prince of Egypt, right? Sit down the Nile River, all that stuff. And then you read the word for yourself, though. If you would go into the word, if you would keep what you were given in your heart, you would recognize real quick, oh, he was placed in the Nile River on some reeds so that he could be seen, but he never went down, right? Something that simple will change your outlook on a whole entire text. Somebody tells you there's only 66 books. There's only 66 books, but in your 66 books, it says read 67. If it tells you to read the 67th one in the 66 books, and you believe everything in the 66 books, why wouldn't you make sure that you read the 67th? And if the 67th matches some of the things that are in other books, why wouldn't you read those other books? And if we know that historically, literally historically, was written in First Maccabees and Second Maccabees, is literally something they cannot even lie to you. They'll tell you everything in that book is true, even by the historians, the worldly historians. Everything in there, they have to admit is true. Legit. Maybe they'd say like a couple things here or there they can't say because they weren't there. But if it talks about the wars that they had, talks about what the Greeks were doing to them, talking about how they were trying to force them to put swine on the altar, all those things, having to redo everything, doing everything in 8 days, right? Leading up into craziness going on with Herod and everything, which is what Christ basically comes right behind. They'll tell you all that stuff is real. When a person tell you all this stuff, it's not even in there. That stuff they can't even deny. They will tell you straight, yeah, all that's real. Right? Everything in there. They gotta admit it. Right? Fourth son of Mattathiah, Yehovadah, right? Or the fourth son of Matthew, Judah, and Judah becomes Waqab, or who you call Maccabees, which means hammer. Or the Maccabees, the Maccabeans, even some of you say, they are the ones who followed the hammer. That's Judah. Right? Not the Judah from Israel in Genesis, but Judah, that's what his nickname was. His father's name was Matthew, Mattathiah, or Mattathiahu, some of you would say, right? That's who you're talking about. And we don't even know. Right? That's our culture. That's your story. Right? So it's very important that we catch this. So John, back to Revelation, I'm sorry. Let's finish strong. Let's finish strong. John chapter 1, verse 4. So this message John is given, it goes to the 7 assemblies which are in Asia, and grace, who the Most High is, will be unto you, or grace be unto you. So when here in verse 4, when it says this, John to the 7 assemblies which are in Asia, grace be unto you, and peace from him which is, and which was, and which is to come, and from the 7 spirits which are before his throne. John is telling, this is John actually starting his part. This is what John actually wrote. There's an argument over which books are which, to be honest with you. I'm being honest with you. And there's so many of them, and so many, to be honest, that I'm still coming into the knowledge of, or having to go back. That's why on Patreon, we're going to start going over the book of Jasher, like we did for the brothers. But this time, I'm going to go through every single chapter and verse for a while until it takes it, because I have a blind spot, or I'm not remembering everything or recalling everything properly out of it. So it's about time for me to really, really dig deep into that and get it back in my psyche and back in my soul. But yeah, so, but John, to the 7 assemblies which are in Asia, right? Grace, or who the Most High is unto you. So this is John's part. Let's see. So John, if you haven't caught it, Revelation 1:1 through 3. Revelation chapter 1, verses 1 through 3 are basically telling you that Elohim gave this to Christ. It is Christ's revelation. Christ gives this revelation to his messenger. The messenger signs off on it to give it to John. John is giving this message, and the point that he has is to make sure that he bears record of all the things that are going on. And then he says, anybody that reads it, hears it, and keeps it, right, they will be Barak. And they need to be Barak in this time, for the time is at hand. Then starts the letter. Now, this is, so he made sure everybody knew the authority. Who told him to write it, when they told him to write it, where it goes through, all this stuff, right? You need to know who authorized it and what his authority is and what he holds and who should even preach this, right? He says, I'm here to give this to the 7 assemblies to make sure the persons that give this message to him do. And then he even talks about the 7 spirits as well. So now this is, right? But anyway, so he says, so now John chapter 1, verse 4, he starts off where he's writing and he's saying, this is what I have witnessed. This is me as a faithful witness. This is what I have witnessed. This is what I was shown by the angel, right? And so, and he starts off with saying, so this is how he would. Once again, we greet each other like this, right? He greets them with shalom. He also greets them with kachan, or greets them with grace and greets them with peace. He says, "Hey, who the Most High is, be upon them." He said, "Therefore, His peace be upon them." Well, the Apocrypha, what a person's doing, if we're just coming out of what was original, those 80 books, then yeah, you have 80, but you have other books outside of the 80, right? Like if you do the book of Joshua, that's not Apocrypha. That's not in those 14, right? Enoch, that's not in those 14. If you do Chronicles, Noah, that's not in those 14. There was one the other day we were just doing. Matter of fact, one last night that came up. I forget what it is, but that's not in those 14. There are others that they say should be written in, but anyway, that's a whole other discussion. So I'm not gonna argue that or whatever today. Do with that what you will, right? But here he says that this message is for 7 assemblies, 7, right? Zion Quadaschem, 7 assemblies, right, that are in Asia Minor, and that who the Most High is should be upon you. And shalom and peace, which we greet each other with all the time, right? Shalom, 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 etc., right? Different dialects. So we greet each other with this peace. From him which is, and which was, and which is to come. Right? So Christ, we're talking about who is, and was, and is to come. Right? That's what we're talking about, Mashiach, right? Christ. Or even Elohim, who gave it to him, right? Who gave it to Christ, right? All right. Which are before his, right? And then it says, and from the 7 spirits which are before his throne. Now you got to catch this. There's 7 spirits before the throne, and there's 7 assemblies. Right? Now there's 7 assemblies that are dealing with 7 different issues. Right? There's seven assemblies not dealing with 7 different issues. 7 assemblies dealing with their own individual issue, or at least a main issue. Right? 7 assemblies. So Ephesus, dealing with the fact that you lost your first love. Smyrna, forgot who you really are, and you think that you aren't who Yah said you are. Right? Pergamos, you're allowing Balaam doctrine and Nicolaitans doctrine to take hold. Thyatira, you're literally seeking after persons who you're paying or seeking out somebody to give you a great time. Looking for women of the night, or spiritual whore, if you will, whoring yourself out, even, right? 5th assembly, Sardis. You have a gymnasium spirit, if you don't know about that, like you're dealing with that. Those people are actually in a place to where persons go there to watch men work out bare naked, right? And there's a lot of craziness going on with that, right? 6th assembly, brotherly love. What is true brotherly love? True brotherly love comes to those who we must learn how to love each other as what we're supposed to be. It's reiterated there that we think that we are not who we say we are, and there are those that say that they are us and are not, and they are the synagogue of the Satan, and they're going to actually begin. These persons are actually going to learn the truth, begin to come unto us, learn what worship actually is. They'll be sit at our feet, not meaning that we'll be worshiped, but they mean that they are going to learn from us, and the world shall be shown that the Most High has, in fact, always loved us, even though we haven't learned to love ourselves. right? And then the seventh assembly, Laodicea, to where there's an assembly that has a problem. They go back and forth. I wish I knew whether you were hot or cold. I wish I knew you were on fire for me or you were just all the way up. But because you go back and forth so much, I can't even deal with this type of assembly. I got to spit them out my mouth. For those 7 different assemblies, there are 7 spirits that come directly from the throne of Yah. The 7 spirits, or the 7, even the word that Yahweh has for us in the spirit for each assembly. So these assemblies are going to be something that represent everything else. This gives us a foundation to think about. So everything coming up with the 2 olive trees, everything coming up with those who must be sealed, right? Everything coming up with those who can be grafted in, everything coming up with those who will be the remnant, everything coming up with the Satan who will have a beast that or a government, what we call government, that will come, upon us or whatever. Everything coming up as far as excuse me, as far as a second beast who basically lifts up the government and makes the Satan look like he's all right by trying to preach the word, but or at least look like he's somebody who should be preaching the word. But if you pay attention to what they're saying, they sound like the Satan. Everything we're going to get is going to be based upon this revelation of that is Christ, that is given to those who are supposed to preach to the 7 assemblies, these 7 types of assemblies, and there's 7 different things that we have to spiritually ward off these negative things that we're dealing with. How you doing, Yasha, Brad? Right? Okay, brother Brad. That brother Bradley. Sorry, excuse me. I don't know why I did that. How you doing, Uncle T? Appreciate you for being on. Right? So these are the things that we're dealing with. These are the things that we're dealing with. We're going to get these 7 eventually in this series. I think it's going to be like probably on Saturday or so that we'll start in the 7 assemblies. But we're going to be dealing with these assemblies for a little bit because they are supposed to be an overview. They're supposed to kind of be wrap up in a nutshell. What are we going through? Right? Losing our first love, not knowing who we are, and allowing other person to say that they're us and they're not. Right? Allowing doctrine that destroys kingdom and destroys Israel. Right? And allowing a person to try and conquer us from pulpits and things of that nature. Right? Getting to a position to where we are, where we're literally trying our best to do anything except the word, or getting everybody else's thing and be accepted by them rather than stay put and stay at home. Trying our best to make sure that we reach whatever the world says a man or a woman or sexuality or all these different things should be. Getting to a place where we are so busy trying to figure out how to love each other like the world does that we don't have brotherly love within ourselves, and make sure that we come back to who we're supposed to be as a nation. Hashtag we be the nation. And then even getting to a place to where, hey, could we just be consistent? Can you be consistently out there? If you out there, if you cold, if you in the world, could you be consistently in the world? If you're gonna be in the kingdom, could you at least be consistent? Could you stay in? But because you're hokey pokey and one day you got your right foot in, the next day you got your right foot out, you looking kind of shaky. you know, at least be consistent. I be telling persons like this: if you're gonna troll, be the best troll. If you coming on here trolling, I'm just gonna help you out. If you're coming on here trolling and you call me Ricky Williams, everybody call me Ricky Williams, and usually white persons come on and call me Ricky Williams. Some black persons come on here and call me Ricky Williams. All right, I guess I don't look like him, but because I'm unshaven and because I have locks, I must be Ricky. If you come on here and you say Bob Marley, all right, I've heard that 75 million times. Right? At least be consistent. And then here's what really gets me though, as far as the hot cold piece. If you come on here and you say something crazy or you call me outright the N-word or something like that, and then somebody says something to you, don't turn around and say something stupid like I'm not being racist. You know what I'm saying? If you come on here and you say, I get it. I can be wrong about different things. But if you come on here and you say, everything out of your mouth is wrong, and then I say, okay, well, show me where everything out of my mouth is wrong. Well, nobody ever said that. You're a Laodicean. I wish I could deal with you because I wish I knew whether you were hot or cold. But since you are neither and lukewarm, I must vomit you. I must spit you out of my mouth. You said, when will the 7 assemblies unite? According to the word, to be honest, if you're talking about spiritually, Revelation chapter 7, we're talking about something that's really more heavenly. That being said, if you look at Mashiach, if you look at Mashiach, right, depending on the dialect you speak, on what the Messiah says, it's very clear. It's on us to do. We have the right to do it. We're like, if you're looking for, the Most High says, you will come together on this date. He doesn't tell us that. Matter of fact, for me to say that might sound odd to some of you, right? So let's go. Let's do this. We're gonna go. For a lot of you, this is familiar passage. A lot of you who are with us regularly, we go over this passage a lot. But that being said, we're gonna go over a particular passage. Let's go to Matthew chapter 24. Right, I'm gonna show you. It says, "No man knows the day nor the hour." That's true. By the way, that's a marital verse. If you don't know, that's how that works. No man knows the day nor the hour, because the son preparing a place for his wife builds a mansion or add on to his father's house. When he's finished building the add on to his father's house, then he's sent back by his father to become one with the bride. And then they both come and live in the father's house, right? So no man knows the day nor the hour except the father, because the son keeps building an add on for him and his wife, excuse me, to start their life in and start life with their children in at his house so they can have help. The father tells him when he's finished building, right? That's a marital scripture. But yeah, no man knows the day nor the hour. But watch this. And by the way, you got to be careful. This is why Jehovah's Witnesses, you got to be careful with. Mormons, you got to be careful with. Latter-day Saints, they do this thing where they're trying. A lot of persons are trying to figure out when the last time is, or this and that. But there's some onus that we must take, some ownership that we must have. Excuse me. Excuse me. Right? We go to Matthew 24. Matthew 24. Right? And we're going to read through at least verse 14. Right? Matthew 24, 1 through 14. All right? So Christ actually gives us an answer. And we be looking for like a specific date, this and that. He tells us what needs to happen. And guess what? That means, once again, faith and works. If you want him to come back, he tells you what you're supposed to do on your end, what we are supposed to do on our end. Yes, that means that we have a responsibility. We are supposed to do as well. We come out of a school of thought that says, the Most High does everything, right? But we are supposed to do things as well, right? So if we go over to, once again, Matthew chapter 24. Let's start reading, okay? Watch this, and watch how this goes against a lot of stuff that we start doing, where we're looking for this, or we're looking for this sign or this sign, rather than Christ's signature, what did he assign us, right? Don't miss that. We're looking for this sign and that sign. Thank you for the repost. We're looking for this and blah, blah. And what's the sign of heaven? And there's a blood moon tonight. Well, that there's stuff, and now Hebrew Israelites out here doing the same thing. The so-called church folk who we say we can't stand. Right, that's what y'all be saying. You can't stand them church folk. But here it is. You prophesying, telling the world, these waves and these floods and everything are going to keep happening until y'all bow down. Okay. Well, what does Yah say? Right? What does he say? Right? What does he say? Right? Matthew chapter 24, verse 1. Right? What does Yehoshua say? Excuse me. Yahushua. Right? Yehoshua. What does he say? Well, Matthew 24, verse 1 says that Yehoshua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to show him the buildings of the temple. And Yehoshua said unto them, see now all these things? So they came outside and wanted to say, like, look at that building, look at that building. He said, man, you see all these things out here? He said, verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. Verse 3, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, same place where he gave the Sermon on the Mount, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? So, okay, tell us about these things, but also what is the focus here? Tell us the signs, right? The signature, what you have assigned, what you say is going to happen. Sign off on it for us, please. Tell us when you're coming back, what's going to happen, right? And tell us what's going to happen at the end of the world. As the Bible declares to us, or as the word of Yahweh declares, if you want to separate parts of the Bible from each other, as the word says to us that, what's going to be Esau when he ends the world, How it's going to be Israel when he's the beginning of everything else. Right? Verse 4. And Yehoshaphat answered and said unto them, he didn't, so Yehoshaphat answered them. He didn't run away from the question, as a lot of us try to, or a lot of these preachers out here be trying to. He didn't run away from it. He answered it. Right? Right? So he answered it. What's his answer? Matthew 24, verse 4. And Yehoshaphat answered and said unto them, take heed, what? That no man deceive you. So all this stuff we're about to talk about is deceptive. These Decepticons out here, they're conning you, right? That's why you got a deceptive economy, because your economy is messed up. You got these Decepticons, they conning you, right? Decepticon, because you have contempt for yourself, and they fill you with contempt. Psalm 123, right? I'm reaching now. but you have been deceptive. These Decepticons, they have transformed things, and you don't even realize. Yehoshaphat answers them, and first thing he says is, first things first, if you want to know the sign of my coming, make sure that you comprehend, you take heed that no man deceive you. If you want to know what's going to happen in the last days, do not be deceived. This means you got to know word law for yourself. You got to be righteous for yourself. You got to work out, well, not righteous for yourself, for our righteousness is filthy rags. But you got to be righteous according to the word, right? You got to work out your own salvation according to that word with fear and trembling. All right, Matthew 24, verse 4, Yehoshaphat answers and says unto them, take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of what? These are the things that we tell persons. These are the things you hear people preach. This is deception. If anybody is out here preaching and teaching this stuff, right, they are deceptive. This is what the Bible says. Because what does it say? Christ said, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye not be troubled. So when somebody comes to you and says, because they're going into Nigeria now, we know it's on. Christ is coming back. You hear people preaching like that. You'll hear persons say, oh yeah, you know what? They tried to go into Haiti and do that. Christ is coming back. He says, look, you'll hear wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. Oh, well, the Ukraine and Russia are still going at it, and eventually America's going to get into it. No. See that ye. Who is ye? Who are we talking about? The servants of Christ. Same servants in Revelation. These are disciples that are asking him this question. These are disciples that he has gone deeper in the word with to explain Matthew chapter 13 and parables in there, because they are his disciples. They are the ones who have given up even all the easy stuff as far as being able to live at the home and stuff. They followed him. They slept out and had to bundle up with each other because it's cold outside. They have walked with him. They have left their families behind for him, right? Even though he has come back and healed their families, so they probably saw their families from time to time. But still, they have really stepped up. This is his inner circle. And they say, what's going to happen at the end? So he says, don't get caught up in this war stuff. Matthew 24, verse 6. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Don't let somebody tell you the end is coming. Right? Matthew 24, verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. Right? So what? In verse 8, all these are the beginnings of sorrow. So when nation rises against nation, if somebody says it's over, he said, don't look at that. He said, if kingdom rises against kingdom, and somebody says that's a sign that everything's about to go away, he said, don't look at that. He said, there's famines. Persons don't have enough food. He said, don't look at that as a determination of whether I'm coming back yet. He said, those things must come. So yes, we're going to get into that Revelation chapter 6, verses 1 through 8, the four horsemen. Those things must happen. But he said, don't look at that as an indication that it's over. All right? And pestilences, sickness, it must come into place. He said, and earthquakes. You'll see earthquakes. Person talking about, when there's an earthquake, and then there was a huge tsunami that came over. And so we know that things must be happening. He said, no. He said, you'll see it in diverse places. You'll see it happen in Jamaica. You'll see it happen in Japan. You'll pray for the Philippines one day. You'll talk about prayers up for Haiti. You'll talk about, oh my greatness, what happened in Florida. You'll say, it was terrible that it got cold and people died in Texas. You'll say all those different, right? He said, it'll be in diverse places. He said, all these are the beginning of sorrows. Verse 9, Matthew 24, verse 9. Then, it's not over yet. Then, as it tells us in Revelation chapter 2, right? Verse 9, verse 10, it says the same thing. Matthew 24, verse 9, then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted and shall kill you. They're going to persecute you. They're going to take you out. And ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. When you say that you belong to Yehoshua, be ready to be hated on. That's why Matthew chapter 5, verses 10 through 12 is so important, because it tells us there, if we do what the prophets do and speak the same word and live righteously for the name's sake, for the reputation or the sake of Christ, for the sake of Mashiach, for the sake of Yahushua, if we live for him and do what he did and follow the law and follow what the prophets follow, he said, be ready to be hated of all nations. See, you got to know what you signed up for. Matthew 24, verse 10. And then, it's still not a finish. Going towards, or and then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. Now we talking about that generational curse, that Deuteronomy stuff, Deuteronomy 28, 54, and 55, where we offing each other and offing our wives and eating off our children, and now the wives are doing the same thing, and now the children are just becoming the next generation to keep it going. Verse 11, he's not finished yet. And many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. So not only will persons come and say that they are the Christ, many will come and say, no, I'm not the Christ, but they'll still preach false messages. They'll be the second beast that lifts up the first one. Verse 12, and because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. And thank y'all for the love, right? Right? He's saying all this stuff is real, right? And because iniquity shall abound, because those who are against the law, right? Because of those who are at enmity with the Most High exist as children of the devil, because that exists, because it lives, the love of many shall wax cold. The love of many shall start to leave. You know, somebody brought up a point. I don't know if I had the timeline right or not. When that song by Pharrell came out, Happy, is that 2008? I don't know when that song came out, right? But whoever was talking about it said that song, if you were to try and play that song today, nobody would hear it at all on any station. Maybe little children would. But persons were dancing to that. Matter of fact, they had a whole thing where I think they had a link that Pharrell and them put together, or whatever company did, where they basically had persons dancing to that song 24 hours straight on a loop. Persons come on and different people, and they just put them dancing there, all that, right? They said that a song about happiness from, I don't know when it came out, whenever it came out, let's say 08, I don't know, whenever it was. If you took that same song in 08 and tried to put it in the universe in 2025, because that's when the video came out, we could say 2026, they said it wouldn't sell. We would think it's horrendous. We think it's corny, because happiness, just in that, now think about how many years have passed since you've been born. Think about how many generations have been away from things. Think about even though we know what time it was and a lot of stuff that really the Black Lives Matter thing was on. That being said, think about how persons came together. And think about how that was a big deal not that long ago. Right? Think about how much persons said, we can't allow another Tamir Rice. We can't allow another Trayvon Martin. We can't allow, I forget the little boy's name, forgive me, but the one who was basically became the second Emmett Till, the way he was done recently. Shoot, now we at each other so much that if you FBA, if you Native, if you Indigenous, if you Black, if you Mahogany, if you're African, if you West African, if you're Caribbean, if you English, if you this, right? Then we can't even come together as a people. Don't talk to us no more. FBA say F the African, and the African says F the FBA, and the FBA says F the African American, as if they're really not the same, right? It's interesting. Like persons will be, W.B. Du Bois, or he would want to be called Du Bois. So let me respect him, right? W.B. Du Bois, right? Would not want to be lumped in with some of the persons that are there, and some of us don't want to be ever connected to him. If you be honest, there's a lot of things that I say that probably sound a lot like him, because I'm somebody that's like, hey, don't worry about the system, get it together. I'm not saying I'm one of them cats that are like, stop complaining about racism, though. right? We differ in that part, and he wasn't necessarily saying that 100% either. But persons would probably look at me and say I'm probably closer to him because I'm more so like, hey, don't depend on the government for the stuff. They don't love you nowhere, right? Yeah, that's right. But there's so much discord sown amongst us by the enemy, right? So verse 12, Matthew 24, verse 12, it says that the love of many shall wax cold. It's not even that long. It's not even, we talking about hundreds of years. In our case, thousands of years, right? But in just a couple decades, if that, we've seen a huge increase in hate. And even if you're somebody that's not just black, white, Republican, Democrat, even for you guys, so-called Republicans, y'all went from being Republicans, right? Just in what, the 2000s? Right? 2000, 2010, 2020. Y'all went from being Republicans to being Republicans in Tea Party to then being Republicans, Tea Party, and I think his name was Ron Paul, whatever that was. They were like extreme. And then it went from that to all of a sudden y'all were tiki torchers. And then y'all were Trump, y'all were MAGA again, which means you had to go back to Ronald Reagan because Ronald Reagan is when they first started Make America Great Again. So you brought that back out of retirement. And then somehow that became Trump is your king. And now y'all don't like him because it's now you can't deny anymore that he was messing with all them little girls on that island. Right? Might have even allegedly, according to what they putting out, according to the stuff that they're finding on the forums. Not what I'm saying. According to the forums, might have had a girl get impregnated and literally had the girl give birth, and him and the girl's uncle tossed the baby over on a boat, allegedly, right? And I'm not even digging deep into it. This is stuff I'm just hearing from other persons here or there, right? I haven't even gone. I don't know if I want to go down that rabbit hole. I know it exists. I know it's crazy enough. I really don't even want. But I hear you. You can't even hear Rand Paul. Thank you. I didn't know his name. Thank you. Right, Rand Paul. So like all this stuff, but you hear all this stuff. Like it just even in your party now. People come out and say, "Hey, you know what? We want to make sure that we're reserved. Hey, we should we should respect. We should respect the libertarian. You know what? We should respect this and that or whatever." Now it's getting to a place. I don't know if y'all noticed. There's a guy who's a Democrat. I think it's the guy who's the governor of California or somewhere in California. There are Republicans that now and young and when I say Republicans, I'm talking about them young, so-called white boys who are red pill and believe that you are better than somebody else because of how you look, eugenics. So now there's a bunch of them that even though he's a Democrat and is a Republican, because a Republican has more weight on him and is older and has a wife that is a certain type of white. They said that she's not white enough. I forget where she comes from, but they said she's not even white enough, right? She not white enough. Or I think it's because his wife is Jewish or something like that. I don't know. I just heard some of this stuff today. I got to go do some reading. That being said, apparently, because the Democratic governor looks better, right? But as far as looks, than the other governor, they're like, oh, okay, we're gonna vote for him because he's They literally said he's I'm not even making this stuff up. They called him subhuman. These young little boys that don't know no better, have been taught and trained this. See the love, Matthew 24 verse 12, right? What should be there has now waxed cold. The love of many shall wax cold. Verse 13, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. We're going to have to endure some foolishness out here. Now, that being said, verse 14, here's where the payoff is. This is what I was talking about. Watch this. And then we got to finish up. We got a few more minutes left. So we got to finish up for today. We'll be right back here tomorrow in the Rising. We'll see some of you for the evening session later on. Right? Is Newsom? Okay, thank you. Right? Now, Matthew 24, verse 14. And this, remember, when you see this word God spell, or what you call gospel, is a compound word, God and spell together. We don't do spells. And God in Germanic language means you can worship whatever you want. The original, even if you look at it here, if you were to look it up real quick, you'll discover pretty much every time you see, I think it's every time, but somebody could find, I'm wrong about this somewhere. So just in case, I'll say pretty much everywhere you see this, you're going to see where what you call gospel or God spell is. You must recognize that word is actually evangelize. So Matthew 24:14 actually reads, and what we use to evangelize, right, for the king, right, those into the kingdom or evangelize on behalf of the kingdom, shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. So what does that say again? It says this interpretation of the word, or this, what we use to evangelize, on behalf of the kingdom, shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. So what are we looking for to see when are the end times? What are we looking for to see if Yahweh, right, this word is true? What are we looking for to see the choir roll back like a scroll, Yehoshaphat come back down with an army? What are we looking for? Right? We're looking for the word. This interpretation, this thing that used to be evangelized, this and this alone. Remember, it must be signed off on. What Christ has signed off on, this must be preached to out a witness for all nations. Now, this word, I'm not trying to come against anybody. I'm not trying to, well, watch this now. Can we say honestly, and I'm not trying to say because I'm a better teacher, yada, yada, yada. No, hear what I'm saying, right? Let's just keep it a buck. Can we honestly say that we have heard this word, this version, not all this other stuff? Can we say we've heard this word preached as a right to be witnessed by all nations? Or have we seen Christianity? Have we seen sometimes Christianity clothed in a Yeshua here, and a Yahusha there, and a Yahweh here, and a Yahweh there, and a Yahweh here, and a right? We haven't heard that, right? We haven't heard this word, his word. Not caught up, not messed up, not what we feel, not opining. We haven't gotten this message preached. See, persons go, well, the word has been preached. What word? Not this one. All right. So back to Revelation 1. Let's go to Revelation chapter 1, verse 5. Let's close it up. We got like 5 minutes left. And thank you everybody for being on all platforms. I really do appreciate you so much. And thank you for those who are troopers who were up with us late last night and still got up early this rising. Those of you who, are watching this later on, whatever the case is. Those who got up and prayed with us for Thursday Rising Prayer with Elder Nice and others. We appreciate you so much. All right, here we go. Revelation chapter 1, verse 5. Yehoshaphat Mashiach and Yehoshaphat Mashiach, who is a faithful witness. By the way, that word faithful witness means martyr. Martyr doesn't mean that you have to give up the ghost, that you have to be unalive. That being said, this martyr was unalive. You'll find later on that it's actually made clear. The next martyr that we see, it has to because we know who Christ is, so we know what he's done. The next person that calls a martyr, they actually tell you, yes, this one also passed away as well. But anytime you see witness, or especially faithful witness together, that is coming from a word that you know today as martyr. Right? Now, I know martyrdom or martyr has even changed over time, but that's what they mean here, faithful witness. So Christ, who is a martyr, right? Faithful witness, and the first begotten of the dead, and the prince of the kings of the earth, right? When somebody says, how can it be the prince of kings, right? He's the prince of kings because he's the son, but simultaneously, he is also the king of kings. Uh-oh. Somebody came on TikTok and said that we are giving misinformation. What misinformation did we give? Was it when I was talking about Trump? It must have been when I was talking about Trump, or when I was talking about that stuff. Right? So I'm just going to go ahead and say that it doesn't contain it. They're going to try to say that it contains it anyways. It's okay. Oh, they got us on something else, Tim? Yeah. See, when you preach this truth, see, the Satan knows. There was something funny. I was watching. We'll end on that. I'm gonna end on something to show you how the Satan knows that we're supposed to spread the message. That's why a lot of times your messages are going to be suppressed. So be ready for that. Holy Spirit's going to be with us. It's going to be a fight, but it's going to be sometimes a one-by-one case. Sometimes on these live sessions, they're going to break it. They try to break it down and hold us down so much. All right. So anyway, unto him that loved us and washed us from our sins in his own blood. I'm sorry, what was I saying? Prince of Kings. Prince of Kings, real quick. Prince of Kings, because the one who is our king is also one of the same who is the Son. That's all it's saying. So the same one. All right. Revelation chapter 1, verse 6. And hath made us kings and priests. Has made who? So we who are servants of Christ, right? We have also been made what? Have made us kings and priests unto Elohim at Abba, at, right? So unto Elohim and his Father. To him be glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Amen. right? I think that's pretty self-explanatory, especially after all we talked about today. So we have become kings and priests because the one who has allowed it, who has signed off on this, has signed off. He, being royalty, allows us to become royalty. And as being royalty and fellow heirs, whatever he's heir to, we are heir to. So if he knows these things are to come, then we should know these things are to come. Now, last thing, I was watching this video. It's kind of funny. I need to start like sending these things to my email so I can pull them up so you guys can hear. But it's a funny video. But basically, it's a guy who comes in, and and there's a guy who's like the boss of the chair, and then there's a guy who's working for him, and he says, "Sir, we've we don't know what to do. People are catching on." I'm probably gonna mess this up somehow. He's like, "Everybody's catching on." And the guy's like, "What do you mean everybody's catching on, sir? They're coming in, and they're learning about different things and stuff like that." He's like, "Well, go ahead and poison it." He's like, "We've already poisoned the ground." He's like, we're poisoning some more." He's like, "We've already poisoned more." He's like, "Well, you need to keep on poisoning." He said, "Well," he's like, "We ran out of poison. We're all out of poison." He's like, "Well, or we ran out of ground to poison." He's like, "Well, poison the animals." Oh, the animals. He's like, "Yeah," and then tell them to eat the animals instead of tell them to eat the animals instead of the the herbs and stuff instead of that. Oh, okay, cool. And then he's like, but what if we run out of animals? He's like, you just just do it, just do it. And he's like, but sir, you know what? But what about persons who are learning about healthy food and everything? He's like, you go ahead and we just treat the symptoms and everything. He's like, well, treat the symptoms. Oh, instead of treating the actual cause of the stuff. But once again, what if persons have learned about food? He goes, it doesn't matter if they learn about food. Like you give them, train. What did he say? Make it illegal to be able to talk about it, or whatever. He's like, "Sir, we can't do." He's like, "Sir, that's genius." He's like, "But wait a minute, we can't do that because that's against the law, isn't it? You can't. That's free speech." He was like, "No, just." Make a law to go against it. He's like, "Sir, we can't do that. That's against free speech." He says, "Okay, well then make it to where they can't do that." He's like, "Sir, it's against free speech." He says, "No." He says, "Go." He says, "Then go online, go to social media, and tell social media to take down anything that speaks against what we're doing." Right? Like the enemy knows that you're supposed to get this truth out. When you start getting this truth out, you got to recognize and realize that the enemy knows that Matthew 24 that we just read earlier. When you get this word to the entire earth, everybody it's time it's time to stop playing games. Everybody can now be judged. When this particular message reaches everybody, all corners, and there can't be any place to say where there's any excuse. Somebody says, "Well, what if somebody passed away already?" Somebody passed away already. Yah will hold them accountable for what they know, right? But if we're looking for Christ to come back, this message must be preached all over. That's what his word says. Not a message, not the one that makes us feel all right, not the one that we can sprinkle some Jesus on. The actual message of Yah. If we live up to this message, then he shall return. So that part is on us. That being said, we're going to come back to Revelation chapter 1, verse 7 later. Thank you guys so much for being on. Actually, we should have our ministerial meeting today, but I just thought about it. We might move it. We might have some tired ministers today. So we might move some stuff around. I know, and I know there's some persons on the road and stuff too. So we might move some things. So I'll let you guys know. Maybe we'll move it to tomorrow evening to be nice, or maybe we'll move it to next week to be nice. But thank you everybody for being on. We appreciate you, right? And we honor you. We honor your time today. So we'll be back here tomorrow. Revelation chapter 1, verse 8 is verse 7. Excuse me. Revelation chapter 1, verse 7 is where we will stop for today. Thank you for being on. Thank you for being obedient. Thanks for being on with us last night. I know there were a lot of us, and I know there's some of us that are probably in the bed. I get it, because I'm probably gonna try and go into bed myself. Right? So we probably will move the ministerial meeting till Thursday or whatever. I could see it even with persons. A lot of persons didn't even come on for Thursday Rising Prayer. I had to put the word out to get some persons to be like, "Oh yeah, that's right." So I get it. We's tired. It's a lot. It's a lot going on. So my eyes are getting heavy. I'm probably gonna go ahead and and roll into the bed, roll back into the bed. Looks like these aren't technically pajamas, but they do look like pajamas. I can just roll right back in the bed. But much love to you all. I thank you. We're going to do our shout out in just a little bit. If you've never done a shout out with us before, you can join us over on TikTok or just stick around on TikTok. We'll teach you, we'll show you rather how the shout out works in just a little bit. Thank you for being part of what we're doing here at SOC. Thank you, moderators, ministerial staff, SOC, Lottie Dottie, everybody. Regardless, I will be on this evening. All right, I will be on this evening. You know what? I'm looking at my eyes and everything. I'm making an executive decision. All right. Don't be mad at me, beloved, because I know we canceled Monday night too. I need some sleep. I can tell if I don't get some sleep, I'm not gonna be right. I'd rather be right for y'all for a long time than be right for a hot second. So I'm gonna rest today. Right? I'm gonna let us rest today. I think we deserve it. Is that all right? Right? And let obviously you a grown man, grown woman, but I'm just saying I'm gonna take time out to rest today. So let's take a little bit of break today, or at least spend some time with family or whatever we need to do. And love y'all. I know some of y'all even was on last night. Still got to go to work somehow, some way, find a way to come on the live session, all that. So yeah, it's a lot going on. Let's just take some time to rest and to rest well. I'm thankful and grateful to each and every one of you. I appreciate you. So we're gonna go ahead and just take some time off today. You will see sometime later. I'd say probably pretty quickly, probably by like in the next couple of hours at the most. We will put out the form for those who would like to attend Passover. It's going to be in East Tennessee this year. For the main one, we meet up in little pockets and people can come together, of course, and we can all join on Zoom. But for those who would like to come this year, we'll be in East Tennessee. So we have a form for you to fill out, and we'll be getting you more information as we continue to go on. So you'll see that come out. Other than that, though, I'm going to be incognito, and I invite you to do the same thing. All right. So love y'all though. Thank you for being on. Appreciate you much. Thank you for joining us, whether you're coming over from the podcast, IG, Clapper, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Very much so appreciate you. So that means no evening session tonight. I'm gonna just I'm taking the rest of the day off. I know these preachers worked harder than I did yesterday, so we're gonna make sure we all get a chance to busa. Right, and bring it on in. All right. So thank you, thank you guys. Y'all keep doing what you're doing. Much love to you. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your mental health. Hashtag We Be the Nation. We ready to go, and hopefully you guys are ready for everything that your cover has for us and for you in your life, henceforth and forevermore. So thank you again. We appreciate you. If you don't know how the shout out works, just stick around on TikTok or come over to TikTok. We'll explain it, and then we'll get ready to do all that together. Thank you again, Maishapake, or Tedah Maishapake, Toda Mishkapa, depending on your dialect. We appreciate your presence. We hope that all is well. We thank you again. We honor you, and we look forward to having you on, prayerfully a lot of times from now. Stick around for the shout out if you can, or come and join us. As always, we give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that is able to be honored. As always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, or website at Bloom and Flourish, not A-N-D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Oh, hey, brother, I don't think I said shalom earlier. To the ministerial staff and to the babies from last night, excellent work and messages. By the way, much love to you all. Take care, and know that Yahweh is with you. He's with us, and He'll lead and guide us into all truth. So we honor you again. We thank you very much. We hope that the message did something for you, and prayerfully this series will be something that continues to put out the in thine house for many more years to come. So thank you again. Remember, as always, beloved, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Early Shabbat Shalom, right? If you're using, excuse me, I'm wrong. Shabbat, no, I was right. Yeah, early Shabbat Shalom. Excuse me. Early Shabbat Shalom if you're using the Israelite calendar. Then tonight, when the moon comes up, begin Shabbat. If not, I guess it's an early Shabbat Shalom to you because you got it coming up tomorrow, right? But love you all. Thank you so much again. Thank you for your participation. We cannot do this without you guys. You guys have a great day.